Avenue had noticed something lying on the ground. It was a micro SD card, a small flash memory device commonly used in portable electronics such as digital cameras and mobile phones. The card was labeled,
"Logic is panic's prey.
Homicide at Midtown Marriott. Driven by curiosity, the person who found the card inserted it into a device to examine its contents. It held a series of photographs and videos, all dated earlier that month. The content was of amateur quality and appeared to have been recorded on a smartphone. Upon pressing play on one of the videos, the viewer was immediately confronted by the image of a naked woman with long dark hair sprawled on her back across a distinctive patterned carpet. Her face was severely bruised, swollen, and bloodied. From behind the camera, a man spoke with a distinct accent. Though his face and body never appeared on screen, his hands were visible as he struck and strangled the battered woman, who reacted weakly as though she was barely conscious. All the while, the man mocked her in a flat, chilling tone.
Well, kiss my grits. We finally made it to the armpit of Appalachia.
All that matters is that you are alive and in possession of the digital artifact.
Almost 2 weeks earlier, on the night of Thursday, September 19, 2019, 52-year-old Valerie Kastler had been standing near the grocery store at the corner of Gamble Street and 13th Avenue in Anchorage. Just before 2 a.m., a lone man emerged from the cold darkness. He was white with a short, solidly built frame, grey hair, and sharp facial features. As he spoke, Valerie noticed his voice was marked by a foreign accent that sounded European to her. Valerie, who performed sex work, agreed to go with the man. She got into the passenger seat of his black Ford Ranger pickup truck, and he drove her a few blocks south to Mulcahy Baseball Stadium, then onto the neighboring Sullivan Arena. They stayed in his truck until 4 a.m. when the man said that he needed to withdraw cash to pay her. He drove to a Shell gas station and pulled in. The man began searching his truck for a misplaced cell phone. It wasn't his regular phone, but an older, additional model he happened to have in the vehicle for some reason. After a brief, unsuccessful search, he gave up and went into the gas station to use the ATM. He returned a few minutes later and continued driving Valerie around until 7 a.m. before dropping her off at a tent in a wooded area near a church where she was staying at the time. Once alone in her tent, Valerie pulled out the man's phone. She had found it under her car seat while he was inside the gas station and had pocketed it without a word. Its battery was dead, so she went elsewhere to charge the device. Once it powered up, she returned to her tent and turned it on. Scrolling through the phone's apps, she stumbled upon a series of images and videos taken earlier that month. Valerie, who struggled with alcohol and drug use disorder, had spent the past 2 weeks on a prolonged bender. When she viewed the phone's contents, she immediately sobered up. A man had filmed himself violently attacking and cruelly mocking a badly beaten woman inside a room. The patterned carpet beneath the woman was instantly familiar to Valerie. It was the same one found in the guest rooms at the Marriott Town Place Suites in downtown Anchorage, about 2 miles south of Fairview. While the attacker's face never appeared on the video, his voice did. Valerie immediately recognized his distinct accent. It belonged to the man she had spent the previous night with, the owner of the phone. Valerie didn't know what to do. reporting the troubling discovery might lead to her own arrest, either for stealing the phone or worse, for prostitution if she admitted why they were together in the first place. Finally, driven by the fear that the man might harm another woman, Valerie came up with a plan. Days after taking the phone, she transferred its incriminating images and videos to a micro SD card. She then labeled the card Homicide at Midtown Marriott, wanting authorities to have as much information as possible about the crime once they got their hands on it. On Monday, September 30, Valerie went to her doctor's office with the SD card. She made up a story about finding the card on the ground near the grocery store where she had first encountered the man. The doctor called the police on Valerie's behalf, and she handed the card over to investigators. Although Valerie initially lied about how she came into possession of the SD card, fearing legal repercussions, she eventually came clean and admitted to having stolen the offender's cell phone. By the time she spoke with police, however, she no longer had the device, explaining that she had since lost it somewhere in the woods. Investigators corroborated her account by reviewing CCTV footage from the Shell gas station where she said the man had stopped to withdraw cash. The footage showed the man entering the store, browsing snacks and drinks, then spending several minutes at the ATM before returning to his truck, where Valerie was waiting. The SD card contained 12 videos and 39 photos in total, all created over a 3-day period between September 3 and 6, 2019. The victim appeared to be an Alaska Native woman, though the injuries to her face were so severe that she was unrecognizable. Neither the offender's face nor body were visible in any of the content, but his right hand could be seen repeatedly slapping and strangling the woman. She struggled to breathe, clawing at his wrist in a desperate attempt to make him stop. At intervals, he loosened his grip, leaving her gasping for air before the assault resumed. Throughout the videos, the man's voice could be heard. Speaking with a distinctive foreign accent, he complained that his hand was getting tired, before inflicting further harm on the woman with his foot. He verbally abused her, stating, "You need to fucking die, bitch. Just fucking die."
When do I get to drive a tank? Is that a thing?
At one point, he pulled out a piece of string and wrapped it around the woman's neck, tightening it and then releasing it. Each time he let go, he said the words "you live," followed by the words "you die" as he pulled the string taut again. Then he added, "Sadly, in my movies, everyone dies." The man hummed the suspenseful instrumental theme from the movie Jaws, made bizarre sound effects with his mouth and tongue, and sang the song Thunderstruck by Australian rock band AC/DC.
Ooh, give me something good.
As the woman struggled to breathe, the man laughed and mocked her as he continued to torture her. He complained about how long she was taking to die, berating her that it was cutting into his drinking time. When some of her blood got onto his hand, he became upset and accused her of giving him hepatitis. At times, he spoke as though acknowledging an audience that might be watching the videos.
You're getting close.
He made remarks about trying to get the right action shot and winning an Oscar. At one point, he said to the victim, "Listen, you need to finish this movie, because I just can't fucking go on anymore. What are my followers going to think of me? People need to know when they are being serial killed." The woman appeared to be unconscious throughout, with her occasional defensive reactions and attempts to breathe seeming more like reflexes than conscious actions. In total, the videos amounted to more than 35 minutes of harrowing footage. A distinct blue and black bag was occasionally visible in the frame. The first still image had been taken at 12:59 a.m. on Wednesday, September 4. In this picture, the woman was still lying on the hotel room floor next to a bed, her right eye partially open and her left eye bruised and swollen shut, with blood along its opening. Her lips were blue and bloodied. Later images showed the woman wrapped in a bedsheet, posed halfway on the foot of the bed with red ligature marks visible on her neck. 2 hours later at 2:51 and 2:52 a.m., photos taken in a parking lot showed a rolling hotel luggage cart parked next to a black older model Ford Ranger pickup truck with a white topper on it. The woman's body lay on the luggage cart, covered by a white blanket with her head partially exposed. Following this were 7 photos of the woman lying face down in the back of the truck. She was covered by the white blanket as well as a blue tarp and concealed from view by the white top fitted to the truck bed. The last of these photographs was dated Friday, September 6 at 1:12 a.m., more than 48 hours after the first video was taken. Nothing in the photos or video footage immediately revealed the identities of either the victim or the offender. Valerie Kastler provided a physical description of the man whose phone she had stolen, but the most compelling lead was his distinctive accent. Valerie thought the man sounded European, but some of the police officers speculated that he might be English. However, one detective reviewing the videos knew that it was neither of those. He knew because he recognized the voice as soon as he heard it. 2016 had been a difficult year for 39-year-old Alicia Youngblood. Over the course of 2 weeks, she had been laid off at work, lost her home after her landlady needed to sell the property, and her truck broke down. Family and friends supported Alicia and her 6 children until she could get back on her feet. But by the summer of 2017, she was ready for a fresh start. She decided to move north from her home in Texas to the state of Alaska. Alicia's warm, outgoing personality, coupled with her adventurous spirit, ensured that the change wouldn't be too difficult. She found a job at an engineering firm called Dow Engineering and began making friends in her new city, Anchorage. One of these friends was a 46-year-old colleague named Brian Smith. The two got to know each other after Smith started training Alicia to perform site inspections. Smith was relatively new to Anchorage as well, having moved there from South Africa in 2014. Years earlier, he had served in the South African Army before working at a software company and later managing guest houses. At one point, he tried to launch his own online dating site, but it didn't take off. However, he did have personal success in meeting someone online. In 2013, Brian Smith began an internet relationship with an American woman named Stephanie, whom he met through online gaming. Stephanie had previously worked as an administrative officer for US immigration in Anchorage, and Smith, who harbored dreams of one day opening an inn in Alaska, was happy to relocate. The pair married in 2014, and Smith had lived in Anchorage ever since. He enjoyed exploring the Alaskan wilderness and its remote backcountry, often uploading videos of his adventures online onto his personal YouTube channel. He also shared footage of Stephanie performing on stage as a musician, along with clips from a trip they took to Hawaii. To those who knew him, Smith came across as someone who was meek, affectionate, and fond of corny dad jokes. But despite the public image he projected of a happily married man, Smith was privately frustrated by Stephanie. Specifically, he felt their sexual connection was lacking. Stephanie was 2 decades older than Smith, and she needed time and forewarning to engage in intimacy. Wanting a more spontaneous sex life, Smith began to look outside of his marriage. In 2018, Brian Smith turned his attention to Alicia Youngblood, and the two co-workers struck up a romantic relationship. As they grew closer, they began to confide increasingly personal things to one another. They spoke about difficult past experiences, sometimes jokingly trying to one-up each other. Smith also shared explicit sexual fantasies with Alicia, sending her messages about how he wanted to tie her up, choke her, and pour vodka down her throat. But by the middle of August 2018, the fantasies took a troubling turn when Smith shared something deeply disturbing with Alicia. He told her that he had killed someone. According to Smith, about a week prior, in the early morning hours of Friday, August 3, 2018, he'd picked up a sex worker near the Department of Motor Vehicles building in Anchorage. After the woman got into his car, Smith drove them both to her small studio apartment, which was located just a few minutes away. Smith claimed that while they were there, he cut off the sex worker's underwear and removed it from her body. He then killed her before taking photos and videos of her corpse. Alicia was horrified by Smith's admission. She later placed a call to Crime Stoppers and shared what she knew about Smith's claims to Anchorage police, but without the alleged victim's name, an address, or any evidence for the detectives to verify, there was little they could do. In the meantime, Alicia tried to coax more information from Smith in the hopes he would give her something concrete for police to investigate. She contacted him via Facebook Messenger, feigning a prurient interest in his claims and demanding that he provide evidence of the murder. After some back and forth, Smith told Alicia, "I think I would like you to see those video clips." Alicia encouraged Smith to send them to her, replying, "Do you see now why I want to see them so badly? I need to see them." Smith responded, "I acted a little bit psycho because I enjoyed it so much. It was a huge relief after being good for so many years. I'm still worried you will think I'm messed up." Although Smith never sent Alicia the videos, he did show them to her in person along with some photos. Alicia did her best to describe what she'd seen to the police. While the footage hadn't shown an actual murder, Alicia recalled seeing a light-skinned black woman who appeared to be either unconscious or possibly dead. In one picture, a naked Brian Smith stood over the woman who was sprawled out with her eyes closed. Some of the videos showed him violating her sexually. Smith told Alicia that he'd wanted to cut her breasts off, but hadn't. Terrified that Smith might attack another woman, Alicia kept in regular contact with Anchorage police over the following weeks, updating them with every new admission he made. She even handed over her phone so they could access the messages the two had shared, hoping they might find something to kickstart an investigation. One day, Smith took Alicia to a power plant in Eklutna, a native village within the municipality of Anchorage. He claimed to have dumped the woman's body in the vicinity, pointing out an old mattress and a black bag he said were linked to the crime. Alicia later took the police to this same location. With the help of a search dog, they located the black bag and took it into evidence. However, this bag was later misplaced. Detectives gained access to Brian Smith's cell phone records to verify whether he had indeed left town on the night of the supposed murder. His phone had not pinged any towers in the Eklutna area. Given that no proof of any crimes was uncovered, investigators began to suspect that Smith's story to Alicia Youngblood was nothing more than a sexual roleplay fantasy. After maintaining regular contact with Alicia for about a month, Anchorage police marked the case file as closed. The lead detective noted, "Based on the investigation to date, with no possible victim identified, and or the video of the incident not seen by anyone other than Alicia Youngblood, This case is being suspended at this time, unless additional information is obtained at a later date. After this, Alicia swiftly left Anchorage with her children and severed ties with Brian Smith for good. There weren't many South Africans living in Anchorage at the time, so when a detective who had previously investigated Alicia Youngblood's claims reviewed the cell phone footage of a woman being violently attacked in an Anchorage hotel room, one detail stood out: the offender's voice. His distinctive accent was instantly recognizable to the investigator. It belonged to 48-year-old Brian Smith. Even more disturbing was the date of the footage. It had been recorded in September 2019, ruling out the possibility that it was the same video Alicia claimed to have seen more than a year earlier in August 2018. If Alicia had been correct about having seen a video depicting a murdered woman, did this mean Brian Smith had multiple victims? While Smith had worked a few different jobs following his international move, by the time police started investigating him in late 2019, he was employed as a maintenance worker at the Marriott Town Place Suites in downtown Anchorage, the same hotel where it was believed the cell phone footage was shot. Less than 2 weeks before the SD card was handed in to police, Smith had obtained his US citizenship and officially became an American. His wife had been his financial sponsor. Following the internal tip-off that the man in the video was Brian Smith, detectives checked the Marriott Town Place Suites records and found that Smith had booked room 323 from September 2 until September 4 using his employee discount. The carpet in the room also perfectly matched that shown in the images and video footage. Vehicle registration records revealed that Smith and his wife owned a 1999 black Ford Ranger pickup truck, which was consistent with the vehicle used by the assailant. When detectives zoomed in on the images, they could see a small portion of the truck's license plate, making out the numbers 87. The final 3 numbers on Smith's license plate were 878. Armed with this evidence, detectives wrote up affidavits for warrants to search Brian Smith's home, truck, and cell phone records. Officers visited Smith's residence and workplace, but he wasn't at either location, nor was his truck. Detectives set up surveillance at the house while a search warrant was executed at room 323 of the Marriott Town Place Suites. Nothing of significance was found there, but CCTV footage from the hotel's parking lot had captured Smith with the luggage cart, loading something wrapped in a white blanket into his truck. Meanwhile, detectives studied the face and physical characteristics of the woman in the murder video to try and identify who she might be. In addition to noting her general appearance, race, and her likely height and weight, she had a small mole in the crease of her right eyelid. Case Detective Brendan Lee cross-checked these features with missing persons reports and Anchorage Police Department databases. Images of the woman's face were taken from the video, along with pictures of Smith's truck, and distributed to patrol officers and homeless shelters statewide. Anyone who recognized the woman or had recent contact with her was instructed to pass their information on. Among the reports of missing women shared with police was that of 30-year-old Kathleen Henry. She had been living in Anchorage since at least 2016, though she hadn't been in touch with her family for several years. Kathleen's life had been shaped by hardship. She had dropped out of high school, gone through a divorce, struggled with alcohol use, experienced mental health challenges, and had frequent interactions with law enforcement. Despite all this, she'd been immensely proud when she earned her GED in her early 20s. Investigators found that no one had heard from Kathleen in recent weeks. Detective Lee obtained a photograph of Kathleen Henry from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Not only did she bear an overall resemblance to the woman seen in the video, but she had a small mole in the crease of her right eyelid. The search for Kathleen had only just begun when the situation suddenly took a dark turn.
I will now test your ability.
Wednesday, October 2, 2019, marked just 10 days since police had received the SD card depicting the brutal assault and likely murder of an unidentified Alaska Native woman. That morning, shortly after 9 o'clock, a call came in from two railroad workers stationed near milepost 108 along the Seward Highway, approximately 19 miles southeast of downtown Anchorage. The pair had been working near the Rainbow Trailhead hiking area, where the Alaska Railroad tracks run parallel to the highway, framed by a backdrop of snow-capped mountains. The workers had made a grim discovery just beyond the road's guardrail: the remains of a woman lying in the fetal position beside the tracks in an advanced state of decomposition. It appeared she had been pushed over the guardrail and had gone undiscovered for nearly a month. Wildlife likely foraging ahead of winter had hastened the decomposition, reducing her body to a partial skeleton. Some bones were missing, but her jawbone remained intact. Dental records later confirmed the remains belonged to Kathleen Henry. Investigators were certain that Kathleen was the woman in the murder video. Their certainty was bolstered by the records that came through for Brian Smith's cell phone. Data revealed that his phone had been at the Marriott Town Place Suites during the period when the videos were made. Then, at around 1 a.m. on Friday, September 6, Smith's phone had pinged off a tower along a rural stretch of the Seward Highway. This placed him in the same area where Kathleen's body was dumped and was consistent with the timestamp on the final photo taken in the back of Smith's truck. Investigators believed that Smith had kept Kathleen's body in the back of his truck, but the white blanket. Detectives initially had no idea why he would be there, but they soon found out he was on a vacation with his wife. They notified a local law enforcement and FBI agents in the DC area and requested their assistance in locating and surveilling Smith. By Friday, October 4, 2 days after Kathleen Henry's remains were found, Smith was located and placed under covert surveillance. Homeland Security notified Anchorage detectives that Smith was scheduled to fly back to Alaska a few days later on Tuesday, October 8. Detectives prepared to pounce as soon as his flight landed. Meanwhile, Smith's Ford Ranger was located and impounded. A search of the vehicle turned up a black Adidas bag which contained duct tape, nylon rope, latex gloves, and garbage bags. Detectives also found a number of receipts, including one from the retail store Walmart marked Wednesday, September 4, hours before Smith began his assault against Kathleen Henry. He'd purchased some beer and a cell phone, which was possibly the device he'd used to document the murder. There was also a receipt for a bottle of Clorox bleach from Home Depot. Another receipt showed that he'd purchased 2 burgers from a McDonald's restaurant at 1:59 a.m. on Friday, September 6, less than an hour after he was believed to have dumped Kathleen's body. Detectives requested the CCTV footage from that McDonald's for this time period. Cameras at the restaurant's drive-through window had captured Smith as he pulled up to it and placed an order. He was wearing a red polo-style shirt with his left elbow leaning out the open window. In the bed of his truck was the white blanket and blue tarp shown in the SD card images. Surprisingly, sitting next to Smith in the passenger seat was an unknown woman rummaging through a handbag. It appeared as though Smith had driven downtown and picked up another woman right after disposing of Kathleen Henry's body. Pictures of the mystery woman were distributed to Anchorage police officers, and a possible identification was provided, but she was unable to be located. At 3 p.m. on Tuesday, October 8, 2019, Detective Brendan Lee and his colleagues stood at Ted Stevens International Airport in Anchorage. They were waiting for Brian Smith's flight from Washington, D.C. to land. Smith was returning home solo as his wife was staying in Virginia a little longer to visit family. When detectives saw the 48-year-old disembark his plane, they ushered him directly into an interrogation room. Smith sounded slightly confused as his Miranda rights were read to him. He asked if he was being interviewed about a crime he'd been the victim of a couple of months earlier. His truck had been broken into, and his wallet, a GoPro video camera, and some papers were stolen. Detectives listened patiently as Smith detailed the break-in before informing him that he wasn't there for that reason. They actually wanted to ask him about an SD card that had been handed in and had pictures of his truck on it. Smith claimed to know nothing about this. Changing tack, the detectives asked Smith whether he ever stayed at the Marriott Hotel where he worked. Smith said that a few weeks earlier he'd stayed there after having a fight with his wife. On the first night, he stayed alone in the room, getting drunk on whiskey. On the second night, he brought a woman back to his room. Between us, I have been known to sometimes go out and find a companion, Smith admitted. He said he sometimes cruised by homeless shelters looking for vulnerable women, stating, "If you drive past, you can find easy girls. $10, $20, they'll do anything." Smith said he would consume excessive amounts of alcohol with these women and pay them for sex. He boasted that sometimes the women would be so drunk that he didn't even need to pay. Smith claimed that on Thursday, September 5, 2019, he met a woman at a shelter and took her back to his hotel room. Smith said he had sex with her that night, then dropped her back at the shelter the next morning. He described the woman as having very short hair and wearing heavy makeup. This did not match Kathleen Henry's appearance. Detectives showed Smith photos of Kathleen from the SD card and asked if he recognized her. Smith was adamant that he didn't.
Hello, I'm sorry.
"This looks like someone that's really been beaten up a bit," he said. Detectives then began playing some audio from the videos so Smith could hear Kathleen being berated by her killer. "That sounds like me," Smith responded. "What's happening with this?" The detectives informed him that the videos were made by an individual holding a phone and filming the woman from above while strangling her. The footage was time-stamped and confirmed to have been made in the Marriott Town Place Suites room that he'd been staying in the previous month. While Smith admitted that it was his voice on the recording, he claimed to know nothing about what had happened and said the woman in the video was not the person he'd picked up that night. "Who would record stuff like this?" he exclaimed. Detectives presented Smith with the phone data they'd obtained and pointed out that his shoes were clearly visible in some of the footage, but he continued to deny any knowledge. Upon learning that investigators were also speaking to his wife in Virginia at that very moment, Smith became upset that his infidelity would be revealed. All of a sudden, he provided a new detail.
Hey, what's happening?
According to Smith, he'd been at work on Wednesday, September 4, when he'd noticed a substance dripping out of his truck. Concerned, he'd looked inside and saw a woman's dead body hidden beneath a white blanket and a blue tarp. Smith did not recognize the woman or know how she'd come to be in his truck. He panicked about what to do. He knew that if he reported the discovery, no one would believe he was innocent. So instead, he waited until after midnight on Friday, September 6, when his wife was fast asleep, to dispose of the woman's body along the Seward Highway. Smith said that after he dumped the woman's body, he drove back to Anchorage and threw the blanket and tarp in a random dumpster, the location of which he could not recall. When Kathleen Henry's remains were found just under a month later, Smith saw news reports about it and felt relieved that she'd been discovered before the winter snow set in. The detectives didn't buy this story. They asked Smith why he would take photographs of Kathleen's body at the dump site if this was the case, and why those pictures would be on the same SD card as the murder videos. After several more hours of interrogation, Smith admitted that he and some friends occasionally talked about how to commit the perfect murder. Alaska, apparently, is like the best place to do it, Smith said. You can drive 100 miles somewhere, dump something, and no one's ever going to find it. Smith eventually changed his story yet again. He said that he must have murdered Kathleen, but couldn't remember doing so. He blamed alcohol, and then suggested he might have blocked out the memory due to the horror of it. He also said that a phone had gone missing from his car, and he wondered if perhaps, quote, a girl had taken it, and in turn leaked the footage. By 8:30 p.m., Smith had been speaking with police for more than 5 hours. He was informed that he would be going to jail that night, and his clothing and phone would be taken into evidence. Yet, there was still the matter of another woman Smith had confessed to killing in 2018, according to his former girlfriend and colleague Alicia Youngblood. Investigators were left wondering, were there more victims they had yet to uncover? Were they now face to face with a serial killer they had never known existed? A detective asked Smith directly, "Have you ever killed anybody else? I'll just be straight up with you. Are we going to find any evidence that you're attached to any missing persons, either here or in South Africa?" Smith flatly denied having committed any other murders. At 8:40 p.m., they paused for a bathroom break, and the detectives escorted Smith to the restroom. They kept their body cams switched on while he relieved himself. As Smith then went to leave without washing his hands, one of the detectives directed him to the basin and told him to wash up. In response, Smith quipped, "If you know what I've been up to, you would know I don't even care about this now." Drying his hands under the hand dryer, he added, "All I can say is that you're gonna be famous." When Brian Smith was taken back to the interrogation room to go through some paperwork, he asked the detectives, "Are you guys in a rush to go home?" They replied that they were not. Then, out of nowhere, Smith began talking about how a long time ago he had been home alone for a weekend while his wife was out of town. Smith had gotten drunk, found a homeless Alaska Native woman, and offered her a meal and a warm place to stay. The woman agreed, and Smith drove her back to his house. Upon their arrival, they went downstairs to a carpeted basement living area that had a couple of couches, a television, and some bookshelves. Smith said that the woman was so drunk she was slurring her words. She lay down on a red couch where she alternated between watching TV and dozing off. Smith thought she smelled bad and told her to go take a shower. He claimed he was nervous that his wife would be able to smell that a homeless person had been in their house. The woman said no, but Smith insisted. Frustrated by her refusal to do as he asked, he went to his garage and retrieved a .22 caliber pistol that he kept there. Smith then went back to the basement and again demanded that the woman shower. When she continued to refuse, he shot her in the head as she lay on the couch watching TV. Smith said he didn't know her name or remember anything that she had been wearing, but he thought she was in her mid-40s. Smith said that the woman was very nice and hadn't done anything to him. She just pissed me off, he explained. After killing the woman, Smith took photos of her and did things to her body. He admitted that he later showed some of these pictures to his former girlfriend and colleague Alicia Youngblood in August 2018. After documenting his crime, Smith drove the woman's body 35 miles northeast to the native village of Eklutna, throwing her clothing out of the car window as he drove. He left her remains near the old Glen Highway. Smith told detectives that he had lied to Alicia about some details of the crime, including that it had taken place in the woman's apartment. Some of the videos he'd shown her were not things that he had filmed. However, he had been telling the truth about leaving the woman's body at the Eklutna power plant. Detectives presented Smith with several photographs of missing women who matched the general description of the woman he claimed to have killed. Upon viewing the first image, Smith paused, then stated, "I think that's her." 52-year-old Veronica Rabowchuk had been reported missing in February of 2019. Although she was a loving and doting mother of 4 who was full of life and had a large family that cared for her deeply, Veronica struggled daily with the lasting effects of trauma. As a child, she was sexually abused, which subsequently led to her having PTSD and alcohol use disorder. In 2005, Veronica and her family suffered further when one of Veronica's sisters, 35-year-old Martha Toms, was found severely beaten underneath a picnic table in an Anchorage park. Martha died the next day, and her murder remains unsolved as of 2025. Veronica's struggles meant she often went through transient periods, which made her hard to locate. She couch-surfed between friends and family members, stayed at shelters, or sometimes lived on the streets of Anchorage. Despite the lack of consistency in her day-to-day life, Veronica would intermittently contact her loved ones, especially around the holidays, and often showed up unannounced at her sister's home. However, by late 2017, Veronica's family were hearing from her less and less. When she failed to collect her permanent fund dividend check, an annual payment made to eligible Alaska residents, they knew something was wrong. Then, Veronica's daughter received a devastating phone call informing her her mother had died of an overdose and she needed to visit the medical examiner's officer to identify her body. But it turned out that the remains didn't belong to Veronica after all. Another woman had died while carrying Veronica's ID card. How this woman had come into possession of the card was unknown. Although Veronica's family were relieved, she was still missing, and their concern for her well-being remained. With the different people providing conflicting information, it was difficult to pin down exactly when the last known contact with her had been. As 2018 was drawing to a close, there was still some hope that Veronica might reach out during the holidays, just as she always did. But Thanksgiving came and went with no sign of her. Veronica's loved ones checked hospitals and various locations downtown, making inquiries with anyone who might have crossed paths with her. With no confirmed sightings by February 2019, Veronica was officially reported missing. Months continued to pass with no word from Veronica Abowchuk, leaving her family with no idea where she might have gone. 8 months later, in October, Brian Smith confessed to police that he had callously executed Veronica in the basement of his home. The revelation solved another enduring mystery that had been plaguing authorities. 6 months earlier, 2 mushroom pickers foraging in Eklutna had stumbled upon a human skull about 100 yards off the Old Glen Highway. The skull had a bullet wound on its left side, with no exit wound, but metal fragments lodged inside. No other remains were found nearby. After Brian Smith confessed to dumping a woman in that same location, investigators compared the skull to Veronica Abowchuk's dental records. It was a match. Police searched Smith's home and found the .22 caliber pistol he had described as the murder weapon, along with several other firearms and 2 homemade gun silencers. They also found 10 different cell and burner phones and a number of SD cards, digital cameras, and laptops. Smith claimed he bought and sold used electronics online as part of a side hustle. However, one thumb drive was found to contain some deleted video clips, which experts were able to recover. The videos showed Veronica Abowchuk lying on Brian Smith's couch both before and after she was killed. Initially, Veronica was wearing clothes, but in the footage taken post-mortem, she was naked. It appeared that Smith had removed her clothing and posed her deceased body. In one short video, a naked Brian Smith appeared on camera leaning over Veronica. In another photograph, Veronica's body had been moved to the floor and covered with a blanket. The television in the background was still turned on, with President Donald Trump visible on screen. Investigators scoured Smith's entire home, including the basement area where he said he'd committed the murder. There, they noticed some suspicious stains on an area of the blue carpet. These stains tested positive for blood, prompting investigators to remove a 9 by 10 foot segment of the carpet for forensic testing. The blood was found to belong to Veronica. Although investigators couldn't pin down the exact date of Veronica Abowchuk's murder, they estimated it had been in early August 2018, shortly before Smith had bragged to Alicia Youngblood about the crime. Investigators repeatedly asked Smith why he had filmed his crimes. In particular, why had he talked about followers while murdering Kathleen Henry, as though he had an audience? They wanted to know if he had been asked to create violent content or whether he'd uploaded any of it online. Smith said he hadn't. The only content he'd shared online had been made consensually with another woman who had given her permission for Smith to post it on an adults-only website. Brian Smith's 2 confirmed victims, Kathleen Henry and Veronica Abowchuk, were both Alaska Native women. When asked whether he was prejudiced against the group, Smith said he'd asked himself that same question. He'd ultimately decided that he only preyed on these women because they were homeless and therefore, to his mind, easy targets. However, Smith was known to harbor racist thoughts. He maintained 2 Facebook accounts under false names that he used to air views he knew his wife wouldn't approve of, including bigoted opinions. He also had an account on the social media question and answer site Quora. When one user asked whether white people automatically assumed all black people were criminals, Smith replied, "White people don't assume it. Everyone assumes it when they look at police crime statistics. Wherever black people go in the world, there is an immediate rise in crime. It is a statistical fact that blacks are more than 600% more likely to violate the law." This figure cited by Brian Smith was not a statistical fact, instead appearing to be one he himself concocted. Brian Smith was ultimately indicted on 14 felony charges for killing Kathleen Henry and Veronica Rabowchuk, including 1 count of first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree sexual assault, and 3 counts of tampering with physical evidence. Despite his confessions to detectives, Smith pleaded not guilty to all charges. A grand jury was held, and Smith's ex-girlfriend, Alicia Youngblood, was one of the witnesses who testified against him. However, Smith's trial was subsequently delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. In July 2021, Alicia Youngblood died by suicide, 2.5 years before Brian Smith faced court. Brian Smith's trial finally began in February 2024. His defense team fought against having the footage from the SD card and Smith's interrogation admitted into evidence, but the judge disagreed. Jurors were shown extensive portions of Smith's police interview, as well as some of the footage of Kathleen Henry's murder. While care was taken to ensure that only the jury could see the screen displaying the videos, the disturbing audio could be heard throughout the courtroom. Some individuals in attendance believed that Smith appeared to look smug and smirked at certain points while listening attentively to the audio. His wife Stephanie sat in the front row of the public gallery, clutching her hands. She attended the trial consistently, sitting near the family members, loved ones, and supporters of Smith's victims. Stephanie told the South African publication IOL that after learning what her husband had done, she had grieved, but was choosing to support, quote, "the part of the man I married." Case detective Brendan Lee gave testimony that he'd listened to a recorded jailhouse phone call between Smith and Stephanie, in which Stephanie asked Smith if he'd had sex with the women he'd killed. Smith apparently replied, "Not with those two." This statement caused a stir in the public gallery. "She's only worried about the ones he did sleep with," one woman retorted. The judge later told the jury to dismiss Detective Lee's comments about the phone call. Valerie Kassler, whose theft of Smith's phone had kickstarted the entire investigation, played a crucial role as a prosecution witness. was arrested when he arrived back in Anchorage 1 week later, before he had a chance to speak with Ian Calhoun again. Calhoun did not appear as a witness in court, with his attorney asserting his client's Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The court found this claim valid, meaning Calhoun could not be compelled to testify unless the prosecution granted him immunity, which they refused to do. The revelation that another person could have had knowledge of and was even possibly involved in Smith's crimes was yet another twist in a case that had already shocked Alaska. The defense didn't present any witnesses, and Brian Smith chose not to testify. In closing arguments, Smith's attorney focused on undermining the state's witnesses and evidence. However, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before convicting Smith on all counts. They also found there were aggravating factors in Smith's murder of Kathleen Henry, namely the substantial physical torture he had subjected her to. While Smith was awaiting sentencing, it was announced that federal prosecutors had also charged him with unlawfully obtaining U.S. citizenship on the grounds that he'd lied in his application. When asked whether he had ever committed a crime he hadn't been arrested for, or if he'd been involved in killing, hurting, or sexually assaulting someone, Smith had answered no. Whether or not his citizenship will be revoked remains to be seen. But in July 2024, 53-year-old Brian Smith was sentenced to 226 years in prison, with a mandatory 99-year sentence for each murder. As Alaska does not have the death penalty, capital punishment was never an option. In handing down his sentence, the judge said that Smith was one of the worst offenders he had ever encountered, due to the joy he took in torturing and murdering vulnerable women. He added, "There is no hope. There is no restoration. There is only preventing Mr. Smith from killing again." Veronica Abowchuk's sister said she was grateful the jury had convicted Brian Smith, stating, "It was pretty hard on all of us, but we tried to be strong in our hearts. But it still hurts a lot." Veronica's daughter described the period where her mother was missing as a complete nightmare. When the police had first informed her that her mother had been murdered, she'd hoped it was a mistake, just as it had been when a deceased woman was found carrying Veronica's ID card. Finding out that it was true was devastating. Veronica's son told news outlet KTOO that his family's tragedy was shared by far too many Alaska Native families whose loved ones were either missing or murdered. The stigma of homelessness and addiction had made his mother and Kathleen Henry faceless to broader society and easy targets for a man like Brian Smith. Quote, "We're one piece of that puzzle. Everyone has their own piece. You never know what someone is going through and what baggage they're carrying." Despite Smith's desire to target vulnerable women he believed were overlooked and uncared for by society, both Kathleen Henry and Veronica Abowchuk were deeply loved and profoundly missed by their families. Kathleen had a passion for writing poetry, and her Facebook posts revealed a thoughtful young woman who often reflected on her life and struggles. One post read, "I live daily with a whole lot of soft-hearted, not hatred feelings, unless someone treats me with disrespect. Treat others the way you want to be treated." Another post stated, "I got to fly because I am light as a feather." Veronica found joy in teaching her younger relatives how to cook, often sharing a signature dish she made with chicken and cornflakes. She was also known for her artistic skills, particularly the beautiful grass baskets and dolls she handcrafted. Both women left behind lasting memories of love, creativity, and resilience, serving as a reminder of the individuals they were beyond the tragic circumstances of their deaths. Advocates for missing and murdered Indigenous people attended Brian Smith's trial in support of the two women and their families. In a symbolic statement of solidarity, many painted red handprints over the lower half of their faces, covering their mouths. This red handprint has come to represent the plight of missing and murdered Indigenous people, or MMIP. In the United States, 4 in 5 Native American and Alaska Native women have experienced violence in their lifetime. More than 56% have experienced sexual violence. Despite making up just 1.1% of the US population, Native American and Alaska Native women are murdered at 10 times the national average. Anchorage ranks 3rd in the US for the city with the highest number of cases. According to data for Indigenous Justice, an Alaska Native-led non-profit, 5,712 cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls were reported in 2016. Only 116 of these were logged in the US Department of Justice database. Given that Brian Smith deliberately targeted members of this vulnerable group and spoke about serial killing in his videos, there has been speculation that he may have more victims, either in Alaska, other states he was sent to for work, or his home country of South Africa. Authorities are aware of at least 2 other Alaska Native women Smith might have harmed. 1 week before his sentencing, the state released a sentencing memorandum which included some shocking information. While going through one of Smith's cell phones, investigators had found 3 images of an unidentified Alaska Native woman clearly beaten and lying either unconscious or deceased on the ground. Amber Batts is an activist from Community United for Safety and Protect, or CUSP, which advocates for the safety of sex workers. She has visited Brian Smith a number of times and corresponded with him in an attempt to gain further information. Amber's personal nickname for Brian Smith is BS, a nod to his initials and the shorthand term for the word bullshit. When talking to Amber, Smith claimed the unidentified woman in the grisly photos was just a friend who had fallen over while the pair were out and laughing together uproariously. He told a similar story to the police. The state included these 3 images in their sentencing memorandum, along with a forensic artist's sketch of the woman. When MMIP advocates saw these images, they immediately recognized the woman as 38-year-old Cassandra Boskovsky. Cassandra was reported missing in August 2019, the month before Kathleen Henry was murdered. When Cassandra's family was shown the photos found on Brian Smith's phone, they confirmed the woman was her. Despite this, the woman was still officially marked as unidentified, with prosecutors stating they could not verify her name or whether she was even deceased. In September 2024, Cassandra Boskovsky's family went to court to request a presumptive death hearing. They wanted to obtain a death certificate for Cassandra, while also setting the story straight about what had likely happened to her. Cassandra's family wore red t-shirts printed with a photo of a young Cassandra on them, along with the words, "Where is Cassandra? Justice for Cassandra, and we want answers." Like Veronica Abowchuk and Kathleen Henry, Cassandra Boskovsky was vulnerable and struggled with addiction, but her relatives knew her to have a great capacity for love. At Cassandra's presumptive death hearing, Detective Brendan Lee testified that Brian Smith's foot was visible in the photographs. During their search of Smith's home, police had also found shoes that matched the pair Cassandra was wearing in the pictures. Navy Adidas high tops with 3 stripes in different shades of pink. The 6-person jury found that Cassandra had been a victim of homicide, and there was enough information to grant a death certificate. Although this provided some relief for Cassandra's loved ones, they, along with MMIP advocates, remain angry that Anchorage police discovered these photographs in 2019, yet didn't make them public until Smith's sentencing, almost 5 years later. During that time, Cassandra's loved ones had endured torment, not knowing what had happened to her. Michael Livingston, a retired police officer and MMIP activist, told Alaska Public Media, quote, "This story really is a microcosm of a bigger challenge that we have in Alaska. How many other pictures do the Anchorage Police Department or other law enforcement agencies in Alaska have who may, in the pictures, appear to be deceased? And we're wondering why it's the policy of the Anchorage Police Department to not reach out to the families and say, could this possibly be your daughter?" Cassandra's family were able to hold a memorial service for her, but they still want to bring her remains home and have Smith held responsible for Cassandra's murder. While Anchorage police have indicated that the investigation is ongoing, as of mid-2025, there are no further updates. In the meantime, MMIP advocates are offering a $500 reward for information leading to Cassandra's remains. They are also offering a $500 reward for information that leads to the arrest of Ian Calhoun, the friend of Brian Smith who appeared to be complicit in Kathleen Henry's murder. Some speculate that Calhoun may have played a more active role in this crime, and possibly Smith's other crimes, than is currently known. MMIP activists say there is enough evidence to charge Calhoun with failure to report a violent crime committed against an adult and/or hindering prosecution. However, prosecutors have said that they will not be charging Calhoun unless new evidence comes to light. Activists have staged several protests in downtown Anchorage in front of police headquarters and the district attorney's office, as well as outside of Ian Calhoun's home. They have also started a Change.org petition titled "Arrest Ian Calhoun Now." As of the writing of this episode, the petition has 5,500 signatures. In an interview with KNBA radio station, MMIP activist Antonia Comack said it was important to speak out against Calhoun's apparent complicity, as silence allows society to ignore the ongoing dehumanization of Native women. "We need to set a precedent with Ian Calhoun and have him arrested," she stated. Standing in stark contrast to Ian Calhoun were the 2 women who reported Brian Smith's crimes to the authorities, Alicia Youngblood and Valerie Kassler. After Smith showed Alicia videos of Veronica Abowchuk's body, she contacted the police multiple times, trying to prevent him from harming anyone else. Despite her repeated attempts, Smith went on to kill Kathleen Henry, and likely Cassandra Boskovsky as well. The news of Smith's crimes was devastating to Alicia, who took her life less than 2 years after Smith was arrested. Her family and friends remember her as a passionate listener and trusted friend with a beaming personality and an indescribable love for her children. In her obituary, they wrote, "Alicia graced our world. For those of us who knew and loved her, she graced our lives." Valerie Kassler has been hailed as a hero for turning over evidence of Brian Smith's crimes, despite fears of facing misdemeanor charges for theft and prostitution. In In a piece for the Alaska Beacon, activist Amber Batts emphasized that it's important for sex workers to know that in the state of Alaska, they have immunity from prostitution charges when reporting heinous crimes. Batts explained that fear of legal repercussions for so-called moral crimes can deter sex workers from cooperating with authorities, even when they possess vital information about far more serious offenses, such as murder. One of Veronica Abowchuk's sisters has said she will always be grateful for what Valerie did, stating, "If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have known what he did to my sister and Kathleen." Amber Batts told Alaska Public Media that Valerie is a brave, amazing woman, adding, "Rather than just saying, 'Oh, it's too difficult, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to leave this the way it is and go on with my life,' she chose to go above and beyond to get that information to police." Amber was the one to inform Valerie Kassler that Brian Smith had been found guilty the day after the verdict came down. It was Valerie's birthday, and she smiled upon hearing the news, stating, "I'd do it again, 'cause those ladies needed to cross over, and their souls make it to heaven."
himself in his career, but our tolerance for these periods have become too short to manage. He physically can't work for another person. I want to scream when I think about packing up my stuff and starting over again. Have we just spent so much of our marriage being distracted by the exciting newness of moving and pushing for financial independence? We didn't notice how little we have in common otherwise. I can't help but feel like this is on me. Not my fault per se, but on my shoulders. I'm the one rocking the status quo, and if I want things to balance out, it's up to me to adjust my expectations. And in a moment, we're going to have that post which came 7 to 8 years later. But first, a commenter said to OP, "I remember reading your original post, and I'm happy that you've been able to have some financial stability for yourself. Your husband can work for other people. He didn't lose his limbs in the war. He just doesn't want to." That's a very important distinction for the next point I'll be making. Your husband is content to constantly move around, live off of savings, and never settle in one place. While neither of you are old, you're getting to an age where settling down and having friends and roots is important because as you age, those things will get harder to do. I'm not saying people don't make friends in the latter part of their life, but rather than most people have established friend groups at your age. So, my husband and I also work in the service industry. We make a living wage, but definitely nothing to write home about. Both of us would like to start our own business, but while we work on that and likely for the foreseeable future, we will work these jobs. Even when our business is running, we will need to continue to serve because most small businesses are simply not sustainable at first. Even in the long run, we will most likely not profit enough to solely be self-employed. That is a hard fact, but it is the truth and one we can live with. Neither of us want to be servers. It's not our dream, but making money is a necessity. My point to all of this being that plenty of people work jobs that they do not enjoy and would rather not, but that doesn't mitigate the reality that money must be made and must continuously flow into the home by any means necessary. I think you should take a good, hard look at your marriage. It seems that the two of you are deeply incompatible and would both be happier with a partner who had the same life goals. If anyone has been bait and switched, it's you by your husband, who enabled you to believe that settling down was the ultimate goal of all the moves and schemes. Hope you find the answer that you're looking for, and wish you a lot of happiness with whatever you choose. Hope you replied to him before I get lost in my own selfish thoughts. I want to wish you luck with your businesses. It's not easy, and I have loads of love for people who hustle for their passion. The friends and roots things is a real sore point for me. Our whole marriage, we've been firmly child-free. The last 2 years, we've had a last blast of, are we actually sure we're sure? Which threw up a lot of discussions about the future and what we envision. We're sure. No kids, but that means if I want a network of people near and around me, I have to work to make that happen. I have no family, and his family is ambivalent about seeing each other. All my friends have become acquaintances because of the moving. I see this lonely life ahead of me with no one in it, and that scares me. I just wish, and I know how ludicrous it sounds as I write it, but I just wish the normal life he could build with me would be enough for him. He could have an amazing, stable life full of traveling and friends and everything people dream of. But he sees getting a job as trading his life, his time, for money. And that's not a deal he wants to make. Thank you for your reply, and I really do wish you luck. Travelbug says you sound super incompatible. Is this really the man you imagine building the life you want with? If you want a chance to keep this marriage afloat, I'd seriously consider couples counseling to see if you can find compromises here that you both can agree to. If you can't find those compromises, then you should seriously consider moving on. Opie says, yeah, I want to continue my life with him. I love him. I like him. We do enjoy each other's company. I really think these problems are probably for a professional. So, this is the point where Opie came in 7 years later after that post and says, I was recently cleaning out my bookmarks and found this old throwaway, and obviously the 2 posts I made with it. I'm not sure why now, but I feel compelled to write a follow-up. Maybe it'll give people the bravery to change, or at least an example of how sticking with what you know isn't always the best choice. An obviously very long story short. With the help of those posts and a lot of long nights thinking, I left my husband. In fact, it took him going away for a long weekend to realize how much happier and peace I felt without him around. At first, the split was amicable, but looking back, I think he was just waiting for me to come rushing back to him once I realized my mistake. When that didn't happen and he could see I was actually serious about building a new life for myself, a switch flipped. We only spoke when he needed something from me, and eventually that stopped too. Enough about him. I'm now 42, happier and healthier and more satisfied than I've been my whole life. I picked me, and that was the best choice I could have ever made. I lived alone for the first time, and my God, the peace of having my own space, unrivaled. I ended up staying in that apartment for 5 years, not a moving box in sight. I put art on the walls. I knew my neighbors. I made a home. I grew my career and went back to school, made friends, built a little community. I've done a ton of therapy and realized that the abusive patterns my parents created in childhood were just repeating with my ex. I fell in love, a real love, a supportive love that encourages growth and security. I'm doing new work that helps people, and it's so much more than just chasing money. All of those things have created a life that's more rewarding than I ever thought possible for myself. I've gone through some really shitty times soon. Illness, cancer scares, deaths, loss. But I have no idea how to come out the other side without the community I'd built around me. Even something as simple as people at your local coffee shop recognizing you is a comfort after feeling adrift and alone for so long. Anyway, if I were to respond to myself from 7 years ago, this is what I would say. Leave the loser. He doesn't care about you. Never did. He only cares about what you can do for him. What you can do for him. And now that you aren't serving him, well, just go. You're capable of doing difficult things. You're worthy of the work it takes to accomplish them. Trust your abilities. Trust your gut. It's been screaming at you for years now, honey. Life can be so much more than you've experienced, but you have to make it happen for yourself. To which the top commenter on that one said, this is as close to a fairy tale ending as this world provides. I'm so happy for you. And absolutely good on OP for recognizing and getting out of that situation. It just sounded like, I can't move past the amount of times that they've moved in 10 years. 25 plus times, but absolutely for OP looking back and saying, I want out of this, but part of me, and it might sound like a very Reddit-y thing to say, and I'm not making excuses for any of the behavior as always, but I can't help but think that he's mentally unwell at the same time. The constant moving, the inability to stick with jobs for more than 6 months, the impulsiveness to chase the next big thing. I mean, he's burning out from jobs and convincing himself, entrepreneurship is the answer, and he's chasing the next opportunity and repeat, all while moving places and all this stuff going on, trying to deal with a relationship at the same time. Holy shit. And then there was comments like he can't physically have a boss or work for someone. It just sounds hugely chaotic. Again, no excuses, of course. Hope he absolutely did the right thing. But what do you guys make of this situation? Holy moly, moving so much. How many moves have you guys had in your lives? I'd love to know that as well. I've had 2, and I still hate the thought of it. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully, I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care. And much love. Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story is titled, Am I the Arsehole for Divorcing My Husband for Being Infertile? I, 29 female, have been with my husband, 29 male, for 6 years. Married for 3. We both came from family-orientated backgrounds and have always wanted kids. We're financially stable and can provide a child an amazing life. We've officially started trying for a baby in early 2023. After months of nothing, I started to get worried. I wanted to get our fertility checked then, but he said I was being a worry rat. Let's wait a year of trying before we get any testing. The year was in February, and I scheduled our testing then. The results shocked us. We were both ignorant and assumed I was the one with the issue if there was one. I mainly see women talking about being infertile, so it didn't cross our mind. It could be something else. The doctor calls us, and one of the worst days of our lives tells us that my husband has a condition called azoospermia, meaning he has no sperm. In his case, they say that surgery to extract directly from his testicle doesn't seem that it will yield high results, but it wouldn't hurt to try. My husband and I were devastated. I wanted us to explore all routes, him taking the medication and getting the surgery, and if that fails, either a sperm donor or adoption. I understand this is life-changing news, especially for my husband, but since February, he's refused to do anything about it. He said he doesn't want to take meds and get the surgery if it will be a waste like the doctors think. That using a sperm donor makes him feel emasculated, and he doesn't want to raise my child with another man's DNA, even if it's from a relative of his, and that adoption isn't something he's ever wanted. I have no one to talk to about this in real life, since he doesn't want his diagnosis out there. It's been affecting me really bad mentally. There's nothing more I want than to be a mum. I begged him to go to therapy, and he refuses, saying he accepts it. I'm the one that isn't. Every time I try to start a conversation, he shuts it down by saying that we will never have a child together. He will never be able to be a real dad, so to move on. I know what I want for myself. That's motherhood. I'm willing to go down any avenue to motherhood, but he doesn't want to. I realized this past summer that he's right. We will never have a child together. I had one final conversation with him since he avoids the topic like the plague last night. I sat him down and said I empathize with him about this life-changing diagnosis, and that he doesn't want to get the surgery, which I respect, or use a donor or adopt, but that I want to be a mum, and I'm not getting any younger. And if he isn't willing to explore any avenue or go to fertility therapy, then I want a divorce. He broke down saying he can't believe I'd be willing to walk away from our marriage over this, that if the shoe was on the other foot, he would never leave me for being infertile. He says I'm a horrible person and that I'm punishing him for something he can't control. I told him it's not for being infertile. I can work with that, but that is because he's refusing to go down any route to become a parent, knowing that's something we both wanted. He says that I never loved him otherwise. I would never contemplate divorce over kids that don't exist yet. He cried about it afterwards and refused for me to console him. I feel so horrible. But what else can I do? Continue begging him to change his mind or speak to a professional? He only wants bio kids and refuses to do the surgery because it's too much prep. Daily vitamins, meds, no hot showers, etc. Am I the arsehole? Oh, that's an incredibly tough and sad situation. It must be absolutely devastating news for the husband, and I think it deserves compassion, but the thing is as well, the title says about divorcing him for being infertile. That's not the case. I think there was multiple paths that were mentioned, surgery, donor, adoption, therapy, and everything's been rejected, even the therapy. And as sad as it is, it's almost turned this situation to one of incompatibility now. You want to be parents together, but he wants to be biological parents or nothing. I do wonder if there is a way to get him into therapy to really explore what's going on here and move forward. But it's incredibly sad. A commenter says, kids are sadly a deal breaker for most. I've walked away from many relationships because I don't want them, and the other person does. In a way, the situation is the same. He's not open to children another way, so sadly your life goals no longer align. It's obviously devastating for you both, but if you stay, you will resent him and probably leave later in life. That's an easy path to children then, not the arsehole. I'm so sorry for you. Another commenter says, just hopping on this top comment to ask, are you really, really sure he didn't have a vasectomy and he's been lying to you this whole time? Asking you to wait a year before seeking out testing, refusing to explore further options for himself, and flat out refusing even familial sperm donation or adoption just feels suspicious. Or I've been spending too much time on Reddit. That's possible. Opie says, I never even considered him getting a vasectomy a possibility. Isn't that something he would need to recover from? I never noticed any signs or discomfort. He also really wanted to have kids. We've spoken extensively. I don't think so. The commenter says he refuses to adopt, refuses to look into donor sperm, refuses to try any medical intervention. He refuses to even talk about it. It's not about him being infertile. It's about him being completely unwilling to understand your feelings, much less try to find a compromise to save your marriage. Another commenter says, first off, infertility is a hell of a curveball. And it's clear you're not divorcing him because he's infertile, but because he's essentially slammed the door on all options. That's a big difference. It's not you're punishing him for something he can't control. You're drawing a line because he's refusing to control what he can. You've got dreams and he's ghosting them harder than Reddit hides good posts. If he's not willing to roll up his sleeves and fight for your future family, you're not the arsehole for wanting to find someone who will. It's time to ask yourself if you should sacrifice your happiness for someone who won't even try. Another commenter says, okay, so I can understand some initial reluctance towards adoption or donors. Not getting to have the life he originally wanted had to have been a blow. Even though I think he should at least be willing to consider it at this point 9 months later. Refusing to try the surgery because it's too much prep is honestly bizarre. Like everything he wants is potentially, even if unlikely, in reach. And he's throwing it away because he doesn't want to take cold showers and eat vitamins. Like something is wrong with that. It literally makes no sense. Honestly, I think twice about staying married to someone who is willing to throw away both your life goals over something that small. Kids aside. So it was 8 months later that OP updated their post. I said, hello everyone. I posted this and shared the previous post last year and received so much amazing feedback that genuinely changed my life. Since no one in my personal knew what was going on, being able to talk about it and get so much amazing advice was great. A lot of the people in the comments opened my eyes up to the possibility that he was refusing the surgery since that would be the final nail in the coffin. That if it failed, that would be the end, and that could be the reason he was refusing to do anything. I took some time after posting that to do some self-reflection on the whole scenario and to go out the situation differently. We spoke about it extensively, and I told him about how I completely understand his fears in not wanting to do the surgery. I really want us to try a fertility therapist, and we could just do one session. It didn't have to be a deep commitment. He agreed, and that therapy session went amazing. We both spoke separately and then together, and we did 5 sessions overall. You guys were right. My husband was scared to try anything because he didn't want to fail. He was pre-rejecting the rejection. He opened up to me about a lot of fears and anxiety about his diagnosis. We deeply connected afterwards and got even closer as a couple. One day I saw vitamins on his dresser and realized he'd been taking them without even telling me. We did another sperm analysis and they saw 2 sperm. We were so happy. Then, to my complete and utter surprise, my husband forwards me an email. He scheduled a consultation for the microtessay surgery in December. It went well, and he was approved for surgery this February. We went in with low expectations and to still be happy at the progress he's made. But they were able to get 3 sperm. My husband and I were ecstatic and couldn't stop crying. Everything went well at his 2-week checkup. Now we're in the process of IVF. I started taking medication to do my egg retrieval right after his surgery, and so far I have 12 eggs. Last month we just found out we have 2 embryos, both healthy, 1 boy and 1 girl. Our implantation date for our daughter was May 1st, and I tested positive a few days ago. We are so happy. I'm so happy that we're able to get through this bump in the road. This has been amazing. I'm so happy my husband's fear and my sadness to his fear was something we were able to get over. We have both extensively apologized to each other, him for shutting down and wanting to give up, and me for not being more understanding to that life-changing news. Thank you guys again for all the advice you gave me. Oh, bloody hell, those onion ninjas. As I'm getting older, I'm getting more emotional. I mean, we only got to the bit him secretly taking vitamins and I was already welling up. But absolutely good on them. I'm glad that therapy and communication is winning the day. And, congratulations, and I can only wish you all the best going forward. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Isliax, who says, am I the arsehole for not inviting my sister's boyfriend to my wedding because of his racist tattoos? Even though he's changed. I mean, I don't think I need to give you a trigger warning on this from the title, but just in case, it contains racism. I, 27 male, white, am getting married this summer to my fiancée, 29 female, black. We're super excited, and honestly, planning a wedding as an interracial couple has had its ups and downs. Some family members weren't thrilled at first, but over time, most have come around. Here's the problem. My sister, 25 female, had been dating her boyfriend, who we will call Pete, 30 male, for about a year. Pete has a complicated past. He spent time in prison when he was younger, and during that time, he got heavily tattooed, including very visible racist tattoos. I'm talking swastikas, white power symbols, etc. Now, to be fair, Pete has openly said he regrets his past. He's tried to distance himself from that chapter of his life, and my sister swears he's completely reformed. But here's the thing, he still has all the tattoos. They're on his neck, hands, arms, unavoidable. My fiancée has made it clear she would feel extremely uncomfortable having Pete at the wedding, and honestly, so would I. My fiancée's family, many of whom I love dearly, would be absolutely horrified to see someone covered in those symbols at what's supposed to be a joyful, welcoming celebration. I pulled my sister aside and explained gently that while I appreciate that Pete has changed, his appearance still carries a lot of pain and meaning, and I don't feel comfortable having him there. I invited her, but asked that Pete sits this one out. She flipped out, said I was being unforgiving, that if we believe people can change, I shouldn't punish him forever, and that by excluding him, I'm basically just as prejudiced. She told me if Pete isn't invited, she isn't coming either. Now my parents are involved, saying I'm blowing this out of proportion and risking a family blow up over something that doesn't mean anything anymore. My fiancée says she understands it's complicated, but she's quietly grateful I took this stance. So am I the arsehole for refusing to invite someone with racist tattoos, even though he supposedly left that ideology behind? So people were asking the OP questions in this. Someone said, if he has changed, has he considered tattoo removal, cover-ups, anything? OP says he has considered it, but he has quite a lot of tattoos, and they're not in a financial position to cover or remove them at the moment. ET PTA, now that you mention this though, I might discuss having the makeup artist cover his tattoos up with makeup for the day. It says, there are organizations that will assist in cover-ups of reformed racists. There's also cover-up makeup that can be done. If he can't see the pain those tattoos and symbols caused, he hasn't actually changed. Not the arsehole. OP responds saying, yes, I actually just thought of using makeup to cover them up. It might actually be a nice idea so that he could attend. As for those organizations, would you be so kind to tell me where I could look that up? I'd like to see if there are some local ones that could help. And then some commenters give a lot of suggestions. Another commenter says a few different initiatives. Cover the Hate was one, also Erase the Hate. It's often just individual tattoo studios doing it. Google the location and Cover the Hate, and you should, hopefully, have some luck. And one more commenter says, here's one resource. And then shares a link, which is removery.com/services/initiative, and says you could also just Google non-profits that cover racist tattoos for free in location and find what you need. But it was a couple of days after that post that OP came in with an update and says, if you haven't yet, then please read my original post on my profile. Hi everyone, thanks so much for all the thoughtful comments and advice on my original post. I really appreciated hearing so many perspectives, and it helped me work through this situation more calmly and fairly. After sitting with it for a bit, I decided to have an open, honest conversation with my sister and her boyfriend, Pete. I explained to them, again, why his tattoos were such a big concern, especially given the context of me marrying my black fiancé. With many black family members and friends attending, I emphasized that it wasn't about punishing Pete or refusing to acknowledge that people can change, but rather about making sure the day felt safe, welcoming, and joyful for everyone present. To my surprise, Pete was incredibly understanding. He acknowledged that even though he's no longer the person who got those tattoos, they still carry real meaning and can cause pain just by being seen. He said he didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable on such an important day, and he offered to do whatever he could to help. After some discussion, we all agreed on a compromise. On the wedding day, our makeup artist will help cover up as many of his visible tattoos as possible. On top of that, Pete will wear long sleeves and high collars to keep things discreet. My sister was clearly relieved we found a solution that included him without ignoring the valid concerns. My fiancée is grateful too. She told me she feels respected and supported by the way this was handled, which honestly means the world to me. I'm so glad we're able to come to an agreement that balances grace, growth, and sensitivity without cutting people out or creating bigger rifts. Thank you again, Reddit, for helping me navigate this. Sometimes just reading different viewpoints really helps clarify what matters most. And a special thank you to everyone who suggested the makeup as a solution and helping us reach out to local tattoo places or charities that might be able to help Pete get his tattoos removed or covered up with his current financial position. No commenter says to that. So glad a calm, honest conversation worked. Good luck with all the wedding planning. Opie says I'm very glad too. I wasn't very hopeful after my sister's initial reaction, but I'm glad she and Pete were willing to work with us on that. I mean, the very start of this had me side-eyeing Opie's family as well. Some of the family members not being thrilled with them being an interracial couple, having its ups and downs, etc. But what a situation to be in, and I can totally understand why they're like, what the hell do we do in this? Just trying to picture like myself at a wedding and imagine being a guest there and suddenly seeing swastikas and white power symbols without no context, and that's what the majority of the people would see. You'd be thinking, what the fuck is going on? And it's not like they're gonna announce it at the toast or something like, hey everyone, don't worry about Pete's tattoos, he's changed now. But it's good that they did actually talk to Pete and Pete got it. Although he says he's changed now, you know, it doesn't erase the visual impact of those symbols and other people's comfort. And your sister was just completely missing the point. What do you guys make of this situation? What would you do in it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Purple Fur Socks and says, I've been lying to my family for 25 years. Dun, dun, dun. It says, I guess it's time for me to come clean. Not because I feel too bad for what I've been doing, but because it's possible my eldest son is onto me. I have 3 kids and a wonderful wife. From more than 25 years, our family has loved doing puzzles together. Since we started, I've done something that may seem unsavory to people that don't understand the joy of putting in that final piece. To ensure it was always me. Whenever we start a new puzzle, I take one of the pieces and hide it in a green sock that's at the bottom of my dresser. Whenever we get to the very end, we all, once again, lost a piece. We all search frantically until I'm the hero who finds it. Well, this past Sunday, we got to completion once again. Only this time there are 2 pieces missing. We begin searching. It may be my imagination, but my eldest son gave me a look. It was a half smirk. I think he's onto me. Eric, if you're reading this, I have more patience than you do. I'll hold my peace forever if I need to. Find yours first, and let's end this madness. Data advances to OP. The battle of wills have begun. OP says he doesn't know what he's up against. Blonde says maybe it's you who don't know who you're up against. OP says you never think that day is here. I know it's coming though. OP adds an edit and says, a fellow Reddit user PM'd me an incredible idea. I'm going to try and contact the manufacturer and order his missing piece. I'm going to find it when it arrives, then find mine immediately after. I almost feel bad when I consider how truly confused he will be. Thank you, Spock on High Spores, which is the user who suggested it. I don't think he's found this thread yet because he hasn't approached me about it, so this could still work. I'm so excited. This will go down in family history. Checkmate. OP adds another update and edit and says, well folks, I've been duped. I got up this morning, went into the kitchen to get some coffee, and I walked past the puzzle. I noticed it had been completed. All pieces accounted for. I calmly and politely knocked on Derek's door and asked him about it. He denied knowing anything about it, like super convincing. I went back down to my bedroom, confused as ever, just sat in bed with a blank stare. My wife asked me what's wrong. I told her that the puzzle was completed and I have no idea how it got done. She literally started laughing like a damn hyena. I've always known about your dumb green sock. I'm in shock. I'm numb, like a gut punch. So as it turns out, she's known what I've been doing for at least 10 years. She said she loved watching me walk around thinking I'm some criminal mastermind tricking everyone. And that's why she never said anything. She wanted me to have my win. Well, she secretly laughed and had her own fun in secret. I don't even know what to say. I'm just processing everything. I can't believe she's had this over me for so long and I had literally no idea. She noticed a decade ago that I had just one green sock, since I lost its pair forever ago, and immediately knew something was up with it since I refused to throw it away. I guess that makes sense. I'm an idiot. I've come to the realization that she's actually the master here. It's her house and I should be thankful she lets me live in it. At least she promised not to tell the kids. You bloody Burke. But what do you guys make of this situation? I'm kind of wondering if the kids already know about it as well, but let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. I mean, 10 years of doing this to puzzles, someone must have thought, come on now. Why is he the guy who's always putting the last piece in? I'm not a puzzle type person, but I imagine that'd be pretty significant putting in that final piece of the puzzle. What do you guys make of that? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love. Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account, and it says, I, 27 male, found out my fiance's 26 female dad died last month. No one told us, and she missed the funeral. Hi. don't even really know how to start this or what I'm asking exactly. Guess I just want to understand what happened and maybe get some advice on how to help my fiance deal with this, because it's a lot. I think she's starting to blame herself, which she really shouldn't. So, I proposed to my fiance back in March. Her dad was the only person I talked to beforehand. I asked for his blessing and he was super kind about it. I only met him a couple of times before that, but we had a good conversation and I could tell he really loved her. The thing is, I only met his wife, her stepmom, once, that same day. It was brief and polite, but that's it. Everything else about our engagement planning and updates was through her dad. Her dad has another kid with a stepmom, a teenage son, 17. My fiance was always kind of kept some distance from that part of her dad's life. It wasn't like she hated them or anything, just they weren't close. Her dad would check in, sometimes visit her on his own, but it always kind of felt like he had two separate families. I never really thought too hard about it. It just was what it was. Then in April, while we were starting to figure out the engagement party and have saved the dates and all that, he passed away. We didn't even know. We didn't hear anything from anyone. No call, no text, not even a weird silence. Nothing. We only found out this week because one of her cousins posted something online about missing him after the funeral. And my fiance texted them like, "What do you mean, the funeral?" And they were like, "Everyone was surprised you didn't show." She just shut down. I think she's still in shock. Her dad is gone. She didn't get to say goodbye. She didn't even get told he was dead. The funeral already happened. She missed it. And no one told her. Not a stepmom, not even her own brother, not anyone. And what makes it worse is, now that she's tried to reach out to people, cousins, her aunt, even her dad's friend, she keeps getting these weird half responses that make her feel like she should have known or been there. Like they're judging her for not showing up when nobody invited her in the first place. She keeps asking me if she did something wrong. She's wondering if her dad was mad at her. I do think he was happy for us, but now I don't even know what's true anymore. I guess I just don't understand how something like this happens. I know grief makes people act strange and there might be stuff we don't know. I don't want to assume the worst about her stepmom. Maybe she was overwhelmed or didn't have our contact info. So I feel like she must have had some way to reach out. But I also don't want to make excuses for someone who let my fiance find out her dad died a month later from a Facebook post. It's starting to feel uncomfortably close to full-on evil stepmom territory. And I hate even thinking that. But this just feels so cold. She's devastated, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say or do. I can't fix it. She just keeps saying she can't believe she wasn't there. She wasn't even given the chance, and I'm angry too. But mostly, I just feel helpless and sad for her. I guess what I'm really asking is, how do I help my fiance grieve someone she didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to? She keeps wondering if her dad was upset with her, or if she missed some sign. And now the way her family's reacting is only making her feel worse. I want to support her without making her feel like she has to perform grief on anyone else's timeline or carry blame for something that was never her fault. Opie adds a mini update in the same post and says I found where her dad is buried and got contact info, who I think is a half-brother. When I showed her the profile to confirm, she shut down and panicked, but it did confirm for me that it's definitely him. She doesn't want to reach out right now, but I might. Oh my word, that is just both absolutely heartbreaking and infuriating at the same time. Dealing with all that now, losing her dad, missing his funeral, and now being gaslit by family members who are acting like she should have somehow known. Obviously, we're all left with the question, why? What's happened here? It kind of feels like deliberate exclusion for me, but why? A couple of the comments says there is a chance she wasn't informed because of something the stepmom wanted that wasn't left to her, or over the division of assets. Check into his will and see, because apart from just being a sack of shit, that's the only reason I can think of for doing this to her. Commenter says the whole thing is absolutely weird. For me, it seems as if the stepmother has somehow spoken against your fiancé to her relatives. Not one of them thought to call her when they saw that she wasn't there. There is, of course, very little information in your post about how your fiancé dealt with her stepmother and half-brother when her dad was still alive. About why there was so little contact between them. Maybe the stepmother felt that your fiancé rejected her and her place in her dad's life, or she was the one to drive your fiancé out. I can't tell by your account. What seems to be clear, though, is that she and her father were, if not close, then on very good terms. He didn't say anything about cause of death, but I guess it was sudden, so he himself wasn't able to alert his daughter to his condition. The stepmother's duty was to tell her about it and to invite her to the funeral. Even if their relationship was non-existent or even bad, it would have been the right thing to do. I think it would be good for your fiancé to try and speak to her stepmother and find out what was at the bottom of this. Even if the only result is that she finds out that the stepmother hates her guts, it would at least answer the question, why? Another comment says, OP, get in touch with a lawyer. Also with a forensic accountant. Both immediately. There's a big reason nobody told you, and especially her. Her brother, her stepmom, nobody. Not one person stepped up. You and her need to act immediately, if you have not started already. So OP comes in with a first update and says, we finally found out where her dad was buried, and I managed to get in touch with her half-brother. When I showed her who I thought it was, she panicked and did not want anything to do with it. She still does not know. I went ahead and talked to him. To be honest, I expected lies or deflection, but what I got was more frustrating. It was not defensive, just cryptic. He said he knows exactly why a side of the family cut her off, and that she knows too. He would not tell me what it was and just kept saying I should ask her because I would not believe him anyway. Then he added, sarcastically, that if she is even capable of telling me the truth, I would already know. He did say that he had tried calling and texting her after their dad passed, but she has him blocked on everything. He also said she tried to make sure she was included, but she made it clear a long time ago that she wanted nothing to do with him. He knows she has always hated him just for existing. He ended the conversation by saying he was calling her bluff, that she does not really want anything to do with her dad's side of the family. He even asked, did she ever say she was inviting any of them to the wedding? That part stung a little. I would not pretend to know the full story, but I'm starting to feel like this is not a case of one person being awful. It feels more like years of silence and resentment that turned into something cruel. We did get some clarity on the legal side. There probably will not be a fight with the stepmom, but the brother told me everything that is needed. We are working with a lawyer, but it will take time. The executor has up to 2 years before probate has to start. Even then, anything she may be entitled to will be split evenly with him and only applies to accounts that were solely in her father's name. We're not expecting anything substantial, but she deserves to know she was not forgotten. Since real closure is out of reach, we are creating our own. Someone suggested planting a memorial tree. We love that idea. We're currently looking for a good starter tree, and she's going to write her father a letter to bury under it. It's not a solution, but it is something real and peaceful she can hold on to. There probably will not be another update. There is. I am realizing that trying to untangle her family's damage might only hurt our relationship. If I want a healthy marriage, I need to protect her peace more than I need to win a fight that was lost a long time ago. Holy moly on toast with a Batman symbol on the end. Where is this going to go? I have no clue at this moment, but there were some comments that said, look, it's pretty telling that nobody told your fiancé about his death. She has aunts, uncles, and cousins, right? Are they all blocked too? Or is there a good reason why they didn't contact your fiancé? I suspect you won't have a peaceful marriage when she'd been so secretive, and it's pretty obvious that the rest of the family is not on her side. Another commenter says it sounds like there is her story, their story, and the truth. I don't think you know the truth. I think your fiancé has been selective over what she has told you. The whole shutdown and panicking when you found the half-brother's profile tells me there is more to this than she told you. I'd want to know the entire truth before you commit to marriage. Make sure you know who she is and that there are no masks in place. If there is no will, then his wife is actually entitled to everything he owns. If there is a will, then she would only inherit what is specified, unless she contests the will. His state of mind can prove that he was manipulated, etc. Expensive. Chances are she will lose. Why a memorial if she was cut off by her father or if she cut her father off? Opie adds a comment saying, yeah, it sounds dramatic because it is, but from what I can tell, she was the one who went no contact, not them. The brother's words felt carefully chosen, almost like he wanted to stir things up without actually saying anything. That whole she knows why line just adds fuel without giving clarity. I get how it all looks, but right now my priority is supporting her while she grieves. When she's ready to talk, I'll be ready to listen. So OP came in with their final update, which says what really happened. I've taken time to process everything before writing this, because I wanted to be clear-headed and fair. This isn't just about a relationship ending. It's about recognizing how far I'd strayed from myself and what I allowed in the name of love, patience, and hope. After the engagement ended, she moved in with a friend from work. But by then, things had already been unraveling for a while. I believed I was being supportive and compassionate, giving her time to grieve and space to share on our own terms. But the truth was, I was being emotionally manipulated. She pretended to want to reconcile with her brother after hearing about her father's death. At the time, it felt like a breakthrough. I thought she was softening, maybe healing. But that was just a performance to win sympathy and deflect hard questions. The more I learned, the clearer it became she had no real interest in reconnecting, only in looking like the victim. What's hard to admit is how many times she manipulated me subtly, shaping narratives and using silence or emotional withdrawal to make me prioritize her over lifelong friends and family. I now see how isolated I became. One friend I reconnected with after everything joked, "You didn't date her, you ran her PR campaign." It hit harder than I expected, because in some ways, it felt true. There were moments where I wasn't just supporting her, I was constantly explaining basic respect, empathy, and how to show up in a relationship. It started to feel like less a partnership and more like I was trying to teach someone how to be a decent person. That kind of emotional labor takes a toll, and looking back, I can see how much of myself I lost in the process. I'd reached out to her brother initially to confront him, but his response was surprisingly calm and cryptic even. After the breakup, I spoke to him again, and this time he told me the truth. The family cut her off because of repeated abusive outbursts, not just towards her father, but also towards her stepmother and brother. He said I wouldn't have seen it because she saved that side of herself for them. He even brought her father's old phone. The texts between her and her dad were awful, cruel, manipulative, and downright abusive. Honestly, I don't even know how or why her dad stayed in contact with her after receiving the things she wrote. If my own child ever said those things to me, I would have cried and cut contact. No parent deserves that level of cruelty. After her father passed, she started lashing out at me too. That's when the pattern revealed itself. Ironically, she didn't even mind that I spoke to her brother until she found out I helped him with a scholarship site. And help is a stretch. I mentioned the Common App, something I always bring up when college comes up in conversation. It's not some special effort. I've told my own cousins the same thing. It's a single application site that makes you sound like you know your stuff and gets kids on track fast. If they apply through it, they're pretty much guaranteed to get into somewhere. She knew this. She had seen me do it with family. But this time, she twisted it into a betrayal like I'd committed some criminal offense. She realized I'd spoken to her brother because I showed her a Reddit post to help her understand where I was coming from. That's when everything shifted. Even then, I didn't end things immediately. I asked if we could slow down and delay the wedding. Instead of meeting me with honesty or reflection, she shut down and turned hostile. Maybe it was her way of pushing me away, but if so, it worked. After the breakup, she kept reaching out, apologizing, saying she'd get help. But I'd already asked her to consider therapy earlier in our relationship, and she refused every time. Now that everything has come to light, I can't see myself marrying her, much less raising a child with someone who hides so much, lashes out when cornered, and only offers change when everything is already broken. My family has been nothing but supportive through all of this. My sister is even staying with me right now. She joked that it's for my protection, but honestly, it just feels good to have family around again. For the first time in a while, I feel like myself. So that's it. No more what-ifs or excuses, just the truth and a fresh start. There won't be any more updates as this account serves no purpose anymore. But now, I'm going to turn this one straight to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, this next story comes from a throwaway account. And it says, I, 35 male, feel like I made a huge mistake by marrying my wife, 30 female. But I also feel like a huge hypocrite because I was the one who changed. My wife Sarah and I have been married for 7 years and we've been together for a total of 10 years. I was raised in a very traditional and religious household and was brought up believing that men are the breadwinners and women should stay at home with the kids. Sarah was raised in an equally religious household and had similar views as I did. After college, I got a job doing financial work for a large company and moved to a different city. I didn't know anyone in the area and decided that attending one of the local churches would help me meet new people. Sarah was one of the church members, and I fell head over heels for her. She is one of the most beautiful women I've ever laid eyes on, and she is also extremely kind and caring. After a year of dating, I proposed to her, and we were married after a 2-year engagement. After the wedding, Sarah finished a degree and started talking about having children. I asked her to wait a few years until I started earning enough money, and she agreed. Kids went on the back burner for a while, and Sarah dedicated herself to creating a home for us while I went to work. After a few years passed, I finally got the promotion at work. Sarah was ecstatic, and we both agreed that we could have the baby. Sarah and I tried for only 2 months before she became pregnant. She was thrilled, but my happiness was mixed with a bit of apprehension and nervousness. I didn't know if I could handle taking care of another human, and it was scary. I decided to suck it up and put on the brave face for Sarah's sake. Our son was born, and Sarah devoted herself to caring for him. Because I had been promoted, I started spending less and less time at home. The job was demanding, and I was working 70-plus hour weeks. I had to wake up earlier and earlier while Sarah stayed in bed and slept. When I came home, Sarah always looked relaxed and happy, playing with the baby. I know that I was being irrationally jealous, but I started to resent Sarah. Taking care of the baby seemed so much easier than my job, and I hated how all of the financial responsibility fell back on me. It's been 2 years since I started feeling this resentment, and I started going to a therapist, but it's not helping. I hate coming home every day and trying to speak with Sarah. She has never had a job and does not understand how stressed I am from working. It's like I'm speaking to a child whenever I try to discuss anything like finances or any topic more in depth than what is taught in school. I don't want to be married to someone who doesn't feel like my equal. I know that isn't Sarah's fault, but I feel like I'm trapped. I just want out. Kathleen says to the OP, keep up the counseling and add couples counseling. You two have communications and expectation issues. You originally agreed to her never working. You are changing the game now. Why didn't she work before you two decided to have a child? You write like you agreed on that. You should probably get a vasectomy so you don't have any more children just in case. Taking care of a house and child is not easy. You can pay $20 an hour for a maid, more for the cook, and I don't know how much money for a nanny while your wife works. So you can come home to an irritable spouse, a cranky baby, and someone who doesn't want to hear about your day. For some folks, you're living the dream. You get to come home to a clean and happy household. Your child is being raised by a primary parent. You don't have to worry about your wife cheating on you or doing drugs or abusing your child or being a financial drain. She isn't dumping her daily woes on you. Instead, she is taking care of things, getting the furnace fixed, waiting for the plumber, painting the spare room, decorating for the holidays, making good food, etc. And you resent that. You may need a different counselor, but keep trying. Here are some other things that can help. Hit the gym, get those endorphins flowing, learn something new, take a parenting class or 2, teach your child to ride a tricycle or fly a kite, etc. Opie says, I'll try to suggest the couples counseling. And you are right. I did agree to all that in our relationship. That's why I feel like a huge hypocrite, because I am being hypocritical now. I know enough to realize that, but I don't know what I can do to fix it. We do have a maid that comes by once a week, and honestly, I would trade the clean house for a wife that can hold a conversation with me about anything other than reality TV or what happened in church. And yes, I resent it. I don't know why I do, but I do. I don't want to feel this way. Another commenter says I have a friend who I went to school with, both to business school after, lived as roommates together post-college, but he moved on, makes 3 times the amount I do, which is impressive for anyone his age in education. And he has no time with his wife or kids except 1 day a week. Has no friends anymore. I, on the other hand, work hard at my job for my 8 or 9 hours a day, come home and it's gone. I'm not worried about work ever, and it's great. I like my job. I love my home life. So, it was about 2 months later that OP updated this post and says, I made this post a few weeks ago about the resentment I started to feel towards my wife after I had been promoted at work. I just wanted to say thank you all for the advice and have a very happy update. You all. I took a week to think about the post and my own feelings. I talked it out in therapy and I came to the conclusion that I could not keep working 70 hours a week. It was destroying my relationship with my wife and son, and it was also destroying my happiness. I spoke to my boss and he was very understanding and told me that there was enough in the budget to hire an assistant for me. My assistant started 2 weeks ago and my workload has been dramatically reduced. I've been able to work a normal 40-hour week and I am now finally coming home before 6 p.m. each weekday. I spoke with my best friend about my wife and he knocked some sense into me. He told me how jealous he and the rest of our friends were over my wife and how lucky I was to be with a woman who is supermodel attractive yet driven and kind and compassionate like my wife. Later that night I drank a bottle of scotch and got sloppy drunk. My wife found me puking in the bathroom and in my drunken haze I confessed to her everything I was holding back. I told her about how I felt left out because I wasn't around for our son, how I didn't feel connected to her like I wanted to be, the whole 9 yards. She held me and let me cry it out, and she told me that she loved me. My wife and I are heading to couples counseling. We were also signed up for cooking classes to build a common hobby. She says that she will stay by me as long as I stay by her, no matter what happens. I love her and she loves me, and I think we're going to be okay. One last detail I can't think to put anywhere else. All three of us are taking a month-long vacation after Christmas in order to have a family bonding time. Wife and I both agree that we need this vacation. And the top commenter said to OP, good for you. Now keep it up.
You don't want a back rub.
Don't do the stoic, suffer in silence type.
So you don't
Trust
want
your wife to listen to and care about your problems.
Okay, leave it with
A
me.
stay-at-home mom can still be educated and sophisticated. Encourage her to grow intellectually with you. OP says thanks. My problem was that I let my prejudices cloud my view of my wife. She studied hospitality management, and I wasn't able to view her skills with the same respect as I gave to math and finance. I'm learning different techniques to rewire my brain into having a less conservative view. I made a list of all the skills that Sarah has and how they blow mine out of the water. The skills aren't any less worthwhile than mine. They're simply different. CBT is helping. But now, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. But just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so, so much. And hopefully, see you in the next one. Take care. And much love. Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from the word no. And before we do get into it, there is a trigger comment about entomophobia, which is fear of insects, and it says, my 22 female boyfriend, 23 male, put a roach in my pants. I have a huge phobia of roaches. It's a real phobia. I can't see an up-close photo of one. I feel like throwing up being near one. I'll cry if one touches me. Just hate them. I see one in a room, I won't be able to sleep. I'm seeking therapy on this. I know it's an unhealthy mental illness and I need to get over it. My boyfriend is a very tough guy. He's not a football player tough guy, but he describes himself as a logical nerd. He'll tell me I'm being over-emotional when I cry, call me a wimp, etc. I broke up with him a year ago because he purposely took my car keys with him to work, so I couldn't go to a friend's funeral. His reasoning was that the friend was my ex, and he didn't want to comfort his woman sobbing about another man. He agreed to get therapy and seemed to have changed. My roommate bailed on me and he was willing to pay rent, so he moved in and started dating again. Lately, he's been getting annoyed because my cat has been killing roaches and I can't touch them to throw it away. This morning I was, too much information, naked and wanted to put on pajama pants. My boyfriend offered to get them and handed them to me. I put them on and felt something crunchy partially in the crack of my butt. So I pulled it out thinking it was a wrapper or something, and it was a full-grown roach, dead and squished. A wing fell off when I threw it away from me. I started throwing up and sobbing uncontrollably. I've never felt so dirty and violated. I kept replaying the moment over and over. I couldn't breathe and I was in a ball screaming. I was so afraid there might still be a roach on me. The neighbors pounding on the door to see if I was okay. My boyfriend started yelling at me to stop being an overdramatic bitch and to toughen the fuck up. He said I was being a drama queen and he wasn't picking up the roach for me. He called me a baby and started making fun of me, telling me I was a grown-ass woman and a stupid roach wasn't going to hurt me. He said I wasn't putting in enough effort into my therapy and he was trying to help me. After showering 3 times and throwing up some more, I called my best friend to pick me up. I'm staying at his house on the sofa and my boyfriend is blowing up my phone. I want to break up with him and kick him out, but am I overreacting? He must have told his family because his mum and sister had texted me telling me that I'm using the phobia as an excuse to be dramatic, that he was just trying to help me, etc. I know a 22-year-old being scared of a roach is silly, but it was really mean of him to do this to me. Am I crazy for being pissed that he tricked me into putting a roach in my ass crack? Absolutely not. A loved one doesn't do that to a loved one. It's quite that simple. You got a phobia, you're working on it in therapy, and he did this to traumatize you. It's not helping in any way. And whilst you was going through what sounded like a panic attack, he stood there calling you names. And as always, what these arseholes seem to do, get their family involved, and they might be just shitty family members. I can only think that he told them some twisted, weird version of the story. But again, they might be just arseholes at the same time as well. And like we said at the start, a loving partner doesn't weaponize your fears or phobias against you. They're meant to support you through them. It's quite that simple. But I'd imagine, about the whole car key thing, if you'd look back on your relationship as a whole, you'll see other red flags at the same time as well. But Gold says dump him now. There is no redemption from this on his behalf. He knew you hated roaches, and he did this and overstepped boundaries and then called you names. This guy can go the fuck to hell. In quotes, I broke up with him a year ago because he purposely took my car keys and went down that path, and continued saying, you should never have gotten back with him. He's an awful piece of shit. You're not crazy. He's awful. Sorry if I'm being redundant, but I'm seething with rage after reading this. ETA, I'm linking this post from this very sub because this seems very similar to your situation. And that post was a prank about spiders, apparently. Opie responded to that and said, that link was very helpful. It is exactly that situation. Any progress I made in therapy has been undone. I'm still crying and I keep feeling little roach legs on me, even though I know I've showered and cleaned myself and checked myself. I just feel gross. A roach was near my private areas. His dead body touched my arsehole. I want to throw up just thinking about it. I don't know what to do. I want to call my parents and ask if I can go back home while I search for a new place. I can't live in that house anymore, but it feels like giving up and I'm doing so much. How do I explain to my dad what happened to me? I'm so ashamed for dating him, for not being normal, for having a roach touch me. Ugh. Yetkin says, this jabroni and spider prank jabroni need to get married and move to a deserted, bug-infested island far, far away from the rest of society, whereupon they fling bugs onto each other and insist, lol, it's just a joke, don't act so crazy, stop being so emotional, it was a prank, lol. Then nuke that island. Opie says, the part that pisses me off the most is that he's scared of snakes. He should know how I feel, but his argument was snakes can actually kill you. Spyglasses says, I don't even have a phobia of roaches. Actually, as long as they're outside and doing their thing, I don't mind them at all. But if my husband did something like this, I would mail him home to his mother. He violated your feelings and your issues and dismissed them. They're completely valid. If you want for you to get control of the roach phobia, look for cognitive therapy. But do not do it in order to stay with this douche canoe. Opie says I'm 100% not staying with him anymore. I never want to see him again. I want to get help for me. I can't live freaking out over roaches. What if I have kids one day? I can't break down like today and scare them. I want to be stronger for me. Sonny Lion says, I don't even have a roach phobia and that would freak me the fuck out. That kind of behavior is unacceptable, but even if it weren't, calling you an overdramatic bitch afterwards would be. This dude is bad news, and I'm glad you're thinking about breaking up with him. However, how can you ghost him exactly if you live together? Aren't you on the lease? How are you getting out of that? Opie says we had a 6-month lease. There isn't much left on it. I can afford to pay the fee. I pay anything to never live there again. He was really great to me at first, and I had high hopes he had changed, and therapy had helped him. But I was so stupid. I regret telling him right at the moment, but I couldn't think. It felt like I was suffocating. Opie then adds updates in the forms of edits and says thank you everyone for the advice. I called my older brother and he's telling my parents now. My best friend is heading to the house to pick my cat up and my important things. My brother said he'd make the 3-hour drive here as soon as he's done talking to my parents and he'll pick up my things for me so I don't have to go to the house again. I'll work on scheduling an appointment with a therapist tomorrow in my home city. I work from home, so at least that's taken care of. I'm not sure how to break up with my ex. I know he posted on Facebook accusing me of sleeping with my best friend right now. I'm considering just ghosting him away and changing my status on Facebook. I don't think I can see or speak with him without feeling sick. I know I'm coming off as a huge coward, but right now the only thing I want is my cat and to be home. And Opie adds a final edit/update and says, I have the cat and I'm back at home. I posted on Facebook what he really did, updated my relationship status to single, blocked him and logged out. When I opened my purse, he had put another dead roach in there. I threw away the purse after crying some more. I'm afraid to go through my things. My brother and parents promised me that they'd check everything to make sure there'd be no more surprises. Thanks, Reddit. I really needed to hear I wasn't crazy. This will be my last update. I don't want to think about this anymore. Oh my word, that fucking idiot put another roach in there. That is just such unhinged behavior. I'm glad that OP's got a support system in place to help things. Her brother driving 3 hours to get her stuff and checking through her things, getting the cat. That's what real love looks like. The immediate response of backing her up compared to this absolute psychos of you're being dramatic is everything. And Opie was absolutely right. I would not want to face him. That was a smart decision to do. And I really do hope that will be Opie's last update on the matter and they move on away from this absolutely awful person. There's always a part of me after these stories that, I'm super glad that Opie got out of there. And part of me thinks that the guy's still out there with that kind of attitude, who's getting off on that kind of thing. It's just like, it's a scary thought, but good on OP for getting out of there. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, Am I the Arsehole? My parents are forcing me to pay for my brother's grad school using money they never told me about. I've 30 female, been financially independent since graduating college. I worked practically full-time while studying. Recently paid off my student loans on my own and just started saving to buy a home. I didn't apply to grad school because I couldn't afford it, and my parents made it pretty clear growing up that we needed to stand on our own after high school. My brother, 22 male, is honestly a genius. He worked really hard in school, got a full academic ride to a great state school, and graduated with honors. I'm so proud of him. The problem now is that he recently got into an extremely prestigious grad program that would open a lot of doors for him. He was hoping for scholarships or a paid internship to cover most of it, but it's not enough. He's now facing tuition and housing costs in one of the most expensive cities in the country. My parents asked if I could help out and suggested I contribute around $15,000 to get him through the first year. They'd match it, and he'd take loans for the rest. I said no. I've been working for over a decade on my own goals, and I'm just now starting to save for a house. I don't feel comfortable putting that on hold, especially when I had to turn down opportunities because there was no help available to me. During the conversation, my mum got frustrated and said they'd be using my other fund to help him instead. I asked what she meant, and she said they had set aside about $25,000 for me back when I was in college, meant to be used for a future wedding. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea this fund existed. I asked why I wasn't told about it when I was considering grad school, or now while I'm saving for a home. She said it was always intended for a wedding, not school or property, and since I haven't needed it, I'm not engaged or in a relationship, they decided to give it to my brother because he has a more immediate need. I'm not going to lie, I was pissed. I never got a chance to make a case for how I could have used that money, and now it's just being handed over to someone else. I told them I felt hurt and left out. My mum said I was being unfair and that the money was never promised, and if I didn't want it for a wedding, then it made sense to use it for something meaningful. My brother told me he didn't know about the wedding fund either, and he understands why I'd be upset, but said he didn't ask for it. He just wants to go to school and thought we were all trying to support each other. I know my brother worked hard and isn't trying to take anything from me, but I can't help feeling like my parents are punishing me for being practical. I was kind of left wondering why, not that it makes it right or anything, why the mum mentioned the money in the first place. If Opie didn't know anything about it, why would you suddenly came out, oh yeah, we're just going to use your money instead then? It almost felt like it was out of spite. Oh, if you're not going to contribute 15k, we'll just use your money, which we saved for you, and you can't have any more, so there. And that money had to have gone towards a wedding, so you're not getting married, so you can't have it. I mean, oh dearie me. Way to turn your children against you, right? But top commenter says, not the arsehole. Those are really sexist expectations. If they wanted to financially support you, they could give you the choice of using the funds for education, or travel, a home, or a wedding. That's what I've done with my daughters, who I've been saving for since they were born. But despite it being an arsehole move, it is their choice how they spend their money. And it is presumably still their money, rather than an account in your name. So in practice, the arsehole element was telling you that it was your money in the same move that they snatched it away from you again. So it was really the sexism that underpinned that decision, which has clearly been there all along. Opie says, that's the part that really upset me. Assuming they set aside money for both of us, why is he worth paying for grad school for, but I'm only worth paying for a wedding? OP answers another commenter and says, Mum didn't say anything about replenishing the funds, but I'm not sure if she thinks I'd ever need it since I'm not in a relationship or engaged by now. I guess technically, my parents helped with undergrad because I've lived at home and saved on housing. We lived driving distance from my university. My brother's school was a few hours away, so he'd have to live there. But the scholarship covered it all. On the subject of favoritism, Opie says, I've never favored him like this before. I tried to point out that I paid off my student loans just fine, and it wouldn't kill him to have to do the same. Opie to another commenter says, no, that's why I was so upset. They paid for me to get tutored in the middle and high school when I had trouble, and let me live at home rent-free during college to save on costs. Growing up, they paid for both of our extracurriculars and only asked me to babysit on occasion, which I didn't even mind. We were always really close despite him being so much younger. Commenter says to OP, never favored him like this before, that you know of. My mum liked to sneak covering expenses for my siblings and not me, oldest girl, to avoid conversation about why. Who knows, maybe they covered other things for him and you weren't aware. OP says they helped me save a ton of money when I was in college by living at home instead of in the dorms. I had basically no expenses besides my car, gas, insurance, repairs, etc., and tuition. Never asked for rent or chipping in on food or household stuff. I moved out after college. My brother is currently at home, graduated in early December, and he's paying rent to my parents. Another commenter says, not the arsehole, your parents are completely sexist. It was okay to save for your wedding, but not your education. It is okay to give your brother for his education, but it seems he does not have a wedding fund. Mum and Dad are arseholes. Opie says allegedly they have money set aside for both of us. My mum said that I didn't want to go to grad school since I never applied, or else they might have had a discussion back then about the money. I think that's BS. Commenter says, why is he having tuition in grad school in the first place? Is it just a master's degree or a PhD? He should be pursuing a TA or RA position before the term starts and not have any tuition. Parents can then help him with housing, but if it's a prestigious program, he should be getting a cost of living stipend from the program on top of tuition. If he's pursuing or getting none of this, it shouldn't fall on you to make up the difference. He says the program costs around $100,000 a year between tuition and housing. TA stipend, I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but he'll be working under a professor. Plus scholarships and his own savings from internships is covering a little more than half. Says a normal TA ship covers all tuition plus a stipend for living expenses, especially a prestigious program. The Grad students are less students and more exploited workers who get paid barely enough to live in the city depending on the program. I guess he needs assistance from the family to fully cover his living expenses, which are dependent on location and roommates. If he has a set housing cost already, you should know. Is he living alone or what? He says he is still looking for roommates. The housing cost he's already got is based on how much it would cost for him to live alone in a studio apartment. It's a new city really far away from us, so he doesn't know anyone already there. My dad said he might not need financial help next year if he finds a cheaper place with roommates during his first year. Someone said what kind of program, and Opie said it's an MBA program, and he already had a TA position thanks to recommendation from one of his undergrad professors. It just doesn't cover the whole cost. So it was around half a month later that OP came in with an update and says thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. I really appreciated the insights, especially from those who helped me understand why this hit such a nerve. Just to clarify, I have no intention of cutting my parents out over this. They let me live at home rent-free during college, gave me a lot of academic support growing up. I wasn't a naturally strong student like my brother, and I've always been loving in most other ways. This situation hurt, but it doesn't erase everything they've done for me. Mother's Day was tense. As soon as I arrived, my mum said, "I don't want another fight to ruin today." I tried to bring up the money again. I left after brunch. We finally talked this past weekend. My brother said he hadn't known about the wedding fund until I brought it up and felt awful it was causing tension. He's rethinking grad school now, saying it might be smarter to get work experience first. He applied to MBA programs and jobs while finishing undergrad and graduated early in December and got into the program he planned to attend. Now he's planning to defer and focus on the job search instead. He also told me our parents had said that I might help with the cost. He'd planned to pay me back but realized he wouldn't earn anything for a few years and would still set me back. That's part of why he reconsidered. My mum wasn't happy. She said she didn't want him giving up an amazing opportunity just because I was being bitter. That really stung. I told her I wasn't bitter. I was blindsided. I found out about the money during a conversation where I was being asked to hand over $15,000 for someone else's future. That was painful, especially since I'd turned down opportunities because no help was available. I just wish I'd known. That's when my dad stepped in. After I was born, he started saving for what he imagined as my dream wedding. It was sentimental to him. When my brother was born, they saved a similar amount for his wedding or family expenses. Neither of us knew these funds existed. They only considered using his for school when other aid fell short. After I said no, they decided to use both funds to help him and figured they'd replenish mine later. I get why it made sense to them, but it still hurt. Many commenters pointed out the situation was sexist, even if unintentionally. It's hard not to feel like I was expected to get married while my brother was expected to succeed. I don't think that's what they meant, but that's how it felt. To their credit, they listened. My dad apologized for not telling me sooner. My mum didn't fully agree, but I think she heard me. My brother asked if I'd help with his resume and interview prep, and I said yes. I told him I know this isn't his fault. He's worked hard and deserves what he's earned. I just needed to feel like my path mattered too. We're not back to 100%, but it feels better. I'm glad we talked. Opie says, so glad to hear that you moved it forward and that your family members each made their own efforts. Sounds like a good family. Opie says, my brother's a good kid. Honestly, the silence the past few weeks has been super weird since we usually send each other memes at least a few times a week. Opie adds in the comments, since some people are getting hung up over the wedding fund money and I couldn't include it due to the character limit. After our talk, my parents agreed to add my name to the savings account so I can access the money directly. They asked that I withdraw it in chunks over time for tax reasons, but it's mine now. My dad still hopes I'll use it for a wedding someday instead of a house, but ultimately, he said the decision is up to me. As for my brother, they said he'll get access to his account in the same way when he turns 30, just to keep things fair. Another commenter says only your name should be on the savings account. This may be anecdotal, but when I've tried adding another person or I get added to an account, it's always preferred to just create a new account. I would check with the bank on their policy. Opie says I need to look up the tax laws for my area, but I know monetary gifts can do weird things to income brackets or mortgage calculations. We plan to handle that this week. I'm still kind of hung up on the point that they talked about the money in the first place. No one else knew about it. I was like, why did they just give him the money without saying anything? Again, not that it makes it right, of course, but it felt just like a slap in the face to OP. But also what was jumping out to me at the end, the dad just talking about the wedding again, saying, oh, I hope you save all the money for the wedding, or a large chunk of it. And I was just thinking, I get weddings are super important to some people, etc. And this might be just a very much me thing, but if hypothetical child and, you know, you've got a huge amount saved for them and they said, oh, I'd like to put it towards my first house or whatever, I'm buying a house, I'd be like, yeah, fair play, you know. At least I can see that they're secure and they're using their money wisely, etc. Just be supportive of that, but dearie me. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and much love. Bada bing, bada boop.
I know our episodes have been later than we wanted them to be, and there have just been a lot of things that have been happening at the court behind the scenes. The first 20 minutes of this video are going to have no relation to the actual trial and the actual happenings of the trial with all the testimonies of the witnesses. So the first 20 minutes are honestly just some behind the scenes information on things that we've been kind of working with. So if that is no interest to you, just skip ahead. I will say though, it has been a rough few weeks. This is our 4th time moving locations. One of them was completely unrelated to the case, and the rest of the times that we've moved to different places to stay, it's just been getting weird, and we're taking all the necessary precautions to keep the entire team safe. And I feel like I haven't really spoken about any of the things that have been happening behind the scenes, so I just want to fill you guys in. There has been so much happening inside the courthouse, or right after the court, or the entire team, like right before we go into the courthouse, and it's just things that we can't really put our finger on, and at the risk of sounding like we're overly paranoid, I'm just gonna try and tell you and explain why I think that we've been on edge recently. I'm just gonna paint the picture for you. This is not creepy, it's just pure chaos. Outside the courthouse, it is a literal zoo every single day. I see TikToks here and there of people capturing this chaotic tornado that's happening, and it is wild how desensitized everybody is getting to just how incredibly messy everything is. A few days ago, there was a man who came to the courthouse with this giant 2x4 plank of wood, and he was, in a rather menacing way, slamming it against the street poles. He swung it at a reporter. Thankfully, she did not get hit, but it was still terrifying nevertheless. And this is actually the 2nd time within the span of like a few business days that the police have been called on this specific person. He has been around the line for a while. He has been consistently standing in the line to get into the courthouse, and then in the morning, he tries to sell his spot. I will say that this man is very intense. Our only interactions with him personally is that he is very aggressive, and he will aggressively scream "ni hao" at us and expect us to say it back. And so we do, because we're terrified. His friend is also very intense. There was one morning where I was going over transcripts before the courthouse opened. So I'm like sitting on the ledge of the sidewalk and I'm going over the transcripts. He's standing towering over me, and he's just asking, he's like demanding to know what I thought about Cassie's testimony. I told him I'm busy, I have work to do. I'm like going over the transcripts, and he keeps insisting me in a pretty threatening way. He's like towering over me. Why can't I help you? You don't think I can help you? You don't think I'm capable of helping you? I'm telling you I can help you right now. And it just took so long to get him to finally walk away. He was definitely erratic, unpredictable. It felt like he wanted me to answer his persistent questions about what I felt about Cassie's testimony so that he would have a reason to start freaking out. That was the feeling. There was another incident where a man was believed to be holding a pool ball inside of a sock. So he's like threatening to swing it around and hit people with it. We didn't see it, we were warned about it. So we like stayed in the courthouse a little bit longer before exiting that day. And it's the same guy that allegedly we heard again that he spat at a reporter. He was screaming homophobic slurs at people in the line. And the NYPD, they will just take the people harassing the public and the press outside waiting to get into the courthouse, will lead them across the street and then send them off. they literally just cross the street with them. We've seen this happen almost every other day. I mean, I think they can't really do anything unless someone demands to press charges or, I don't know, actually, God forbid, gets injured, so that's great.
This is how. Shut the fuck up, bitch. This is the I said shut the fuck up, bitch.
There is heavy police presence there. The U.S. Marshals are out there every single day, but there are just nonstop people, unwarranted, unprompted, just spawning out of thin air, screaming at everybody. I honestly feel like some of these people are coming to the courthouse to get a fight out of their system. That's the feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. People are trying to argue about pretty much everything outside of this courthouse. I am told that this is very New York, which we have spent some time in New York and had a place here for a while, and it feels like every interaction, like every bad interaction I've had in New York, amplify it times 1,000 and then add it all up, and then I have to relive that experience every single day. We're trying to keep to ourselves. We're really just trying to mind our own business, but even so, just a few days ago, one of our team members was waiting in the line super early, gets harassed to the point of tears. A passerby is cursing at her, screaming belligerently at her, tries to snatch her phone from her hand. We've been told that she's been starting quite a few fights outside the courthouse. This is completely unprompted. She's screaming racist slurs at our team member's face. Nobody cares. Nobody helps. Like, people are just standing around live streaming it, filming it, watching it, and then afterwards, after the crazy lady leaves, the same people that were filming, that did nothing to help our team member, are now filming her as they comfort her. And they're like trying to rub her back and tell her it's okay. It is so dystopian. We were inside the courthouse, so we didn't even know until after the fact. There were briefly a group of protesters wearing Free Diddy shirts across the street from the courthouse. They were allegedly getting paid $20 an hour to stand outside and wear Free Diddy t-shirts to promote the Diddy coin, which we've also received an email about. It's like a crypto coin for Diddy, so there's that. There are people seemingly thirsting after Sean Combs' sons when they arrive and leave for court, with one supporter of the son, not Diddy supporter, kissing Justin Combs on the cheek. Which, speaking of, I will say, there has been an uptick of Diddy supporters coming into the courthouse through the public side. One supporter even tries to hand Sean Combs a stack of papers, which Officer Riz promptly put an end to, but there was a futile attempt. The supporters staying outside the courthouse, they've been slightly confrontational with the press and confrontational with a lot of others that are just live streaming right outside. So that's just setting the scene of what's been happening outside the courthouse. Also, why is Fresh and Fit Myron in the courtroom? Like, he was in the main courtroom for, I think, at least a few days last week. I haven't seen him the past few days, but he could be in the overflow rooms. I did see him outside while when he first started coming around. He's recording outside while a woman is undressing down into her underwear. This is like right outside the federal courthouse. This is how chaotic it's been. Which, if you're not familiar, Myron is the Fresh and Fit guy. If you're luckily unfamiliar with his podcast, which I don't even think is around anymore, he would have this format where he would bring a bunch of women onto the podcast, many of them being OnlyFans models, and he just essentially berates them for being alive. I mean, that's factually incorrect, but emotionally, that's what you're gonna feel from the podcast. There are at least 5 times I wrote in my notebook, why is Myron here? Like, I don't know why he's here. But what's interesting about him is he's actually quite meek in real life. Not that I think he should carry himself as he does on his podcast in the courthouse, but he's rather, like, he has a very soft demeanor. Softer than other content creators that I run into in the elevators, which is not what I expected of him. Like, we were in the elevator with him once, and everybody's shuffling out, and we were waiting for him to leave, and he's just like, oh yeah, no, please go ahead. Like, very softly. Nevertheless, that's just like painting the picture of the chaos. There have been a lot of incidents, though, that have us feeling just weird. Right outside the federal courthouse, there is this one gigantic line that is filled with press and public. You got members of the press, you got members of the public, all in one singular line. The only way that you can kind of differentiate is like maybe they have on their press badge at the time. Now, this line typically starts the day before. The line sometimes starts before we get out of court sometimes. So the line starts while we're inside the courthouse. Clearly, nobody can be at 2 places at once. So a lot of the press members, they will hire line waiters. And just to give you an idea, a lot of the press pews, yes, there's a few independent journalists in there. A good number of them are all with Legacy Media, and Legacy Media has a lot of money. We're a small team, and just to keep up, we're having to spend about $1,000 a day to have line sitters. Actually, more, to just make sure we get into that main courtroom to be able to give you all the details that we really want to provide for you guys. So there's this giant line outside, press and public all in one line, and then right before the security line into the courthouse, the U.S. Marshals will come out and divvy up the line. So they'll make a press line and they'll make a public line. So it's in order. So if you're like the fifth in line, you might be the second member of the press, or you might be the third member of the public, and they'll just kind of sort you one by one, depending on the order. Now, I will say that a good chunk of the public line are content creators, so it's kind of like a mini press line. Also, these days though, lots of supporters of Sean Combs that are not part of his friends and family that are going in through the public side as well. And then once you get inside the courtroom, the press pews are on the right side and the public pews are on the left side. Recently, there have been so many whisperings and just confusion because there have been people, different people each time, that will lurk around this gigantic main line outside before it's separated. And you'll see that in the beginning, I think the Legacy Media, they're a lot more intense about getting spots in the main courtroom. So good chunk of the first half of the gigantic line are press. There will be random people that will walk up and down this line, primarily focusing on the press members at the very front, and they'll act like they're just walking up and down for exercise, and they will be secretly recording everyone on their phones. Now, mind you, there are a lot of people live streaming outside, so it's not like they're live streaming. It's like they're trying to be discreet, like they're recording, but they don't want the press members to know that they're recording. So it's becoming incredibly uncomfortable, and all the press members are trying to warn each other once they spot someone like this. And it feels like it's every other day that they spot someone secretly recording members of the press. And it's confusing because, you know, a lot of the members of the press, these people are very impressive producers, reporters, journalists that have been in the industry for years. They work with Legacy Media. They're not the type of people that are just going to say unhinged stuff in broad daylight in a public setting or air out confidential information on the side of the street. So it's not like you're recording the press members saying anything salacious or juicy or even worth capturing on camera. It feels like they're recording to get a general vibe of the members of the press. Because right before we go in, we might have small talk about maybe yesterday's testimony, or like what's to be expected when we walk in today, who's testifying today. Like there's little conversations like that where maybe you could see each members of the press, maybe you'll see a little bit of their feelings about how it's going, maybe you'll see like tiny bits of their opinions, nothing salacious. Maybe it's more like, oh, I almost cried when she was testifying. Like those are the types of comments you hear. It's really not worth recording. And I say that it's been weird because those same people that are trying to discreetly record, they will often approach members of the press asking questions about how they feel about the case thus far. And they'll try to do it in a very casual manner. But again, we're all warning each other that they're recording us. I think it's been pretty easy for my researchers and I to tell if someone that we meet near or outside or even sometimes inside the courthouse is a genuinely curious person, or if they're asking a lot of strange questions. And that's why it's so hard to explain any of this in a way that doesn't make us seem super dramatic, because we'll get similar questions asked by people who we feel are genuinely just supporters of the podcast or just intrigued because maybe they themselves are trying to start social media. So the past 2 weeks, we have had almost, I want to say it's like more than a handful. I think it's been like 8 or 9 times in the past like week. Not people that we see in the courtroom every single day. Completely new faces that will come up to us, tell us that they love our show, Rotten Mango, and then they keep asking us where we're staying, which hotel we're staying at, which part of the city we're staying at. And of course, we give them very non-committal answers because that's a very invasive question to ask.
Not only that, they even ask like, who's here?
Yes, I'm gonna get into
they?
that.
Like,
so like just to give you an idea, like clearly if someone is a member of the press or if it's a fellow content creator or somebody that I see every single day and we have some sort of foundation and they ask me, where are you staying? It feels like, because we're all trying to get a gauge of all the hotels nearby, which one's a good one, which one has good amenities for after court. But these are random people that are like, hey, by the way, I love your show. Nice to meet you. My name is blank. Where are you staying? It's like instant. It's just nonstop questions about which hotel we're staying at. And then if we evade the question, it becomes what part of the city, which area, how long does it take you to get here? Do you Uber or do you walk? Who's all staying with you? Is it just you guys? Is it just you and your researcher here? Who, like, do you go home during the weekends if you're not from the city? Do you fly back home? Do you take the train? Like, it's just non-stop.
Like, what are some of these questions going to provide for this person? Like,
Nothing.
There's no need for anybody to ask these type of questions.
And the worst part is, it's pretty clear that we're so uncomfortable with these questions because we'll literally be like, yeah, haha, and then they'll just keep asking.
And some of them don't seem like they've really watched anything from you. Yeah.
Because now, like, our researchers do this thing where they will try to have conversations about the show, and most of them have no clue what the show is even about, is the feeling.
Yeah.
And then this person will just vanish. That'll be like the first conversation we have with them, and then we'll never see them in court again. So one specific time, there was a man, an older guy, who's asking us where we're staying, just pressing. And he's in the main courtroom, in the public section. He's asking us all these invasive questions, and then he's waiting for us in the hallway during each break, just casually lingering near us the entire day, and then just rerouting every conversation back to which hotel you're staying at, pressing details. My researcher passes me a note later in the day saying, look at him right now. He doesn't even have a notebook. So usually, because you can't bring your phone, and you're not just like staring. I mean, even members of the public, they're all taking notes, even if they're not content creators. Sure enough, I look, no notebook, no notes are being taken, nothing. And then he never shows up to court again. Another odd instance, this is a completely separate person that's asking nonstop where we're staying. We give a non-committal answer to him. He keeps asking, and again, it's not giving that, hey, I'm genuinely curious because I'm also staying at a hotel. It's just so unsettling. We refuse to answer. We keep laughing it off. He keeps pressing. Later during a break, he approaches my researcher outside while I'm in the bathroom. And then he asks her where I'm staying. And she again does not respond because he just asked us while we were together. It was just weird. He literally just asked us. This has been happening like every other day. There are other odd questions that are asked by people that don't necessarily look like they even care about the show in the slightest. So one person in particular asked a series of questions trying to gauge how much, quote, power I have over my audience. Like, they kept asking, like, can you make them do anything? And I was like, do you think I, like, run a cult? I think half of them don't even like me that much. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't make them do anything, period? But they kept asking, like, well, you don't think if you say something, they would listen to you? And I'm like, I don't think so. I think they would do their own research. And it did not seem like this person cared at all about this show. Now, this could be completely unrelated, and in addition to everything else that I've just talked about, and everybody's already pretty intense. There was one instance where we're walking out of the courthouse. We run into someone who's like, hey, I love your show. That's it. And then they like come in for a hug. It was kind of abrupt. I was a little bit taken off guard. I love your show. Pulling me in for a hug, and my researcher snatches my arm, pulls me back, and is like, we gotta go. Our car is here. And I thought it was kind of strange. So we get into the car, and she's telling me their hand was like elbow deep into your tote bag. It's clear that they're looking for something. Now, I will say that my tote bag opening is quite large, but it's right under my armpit. So you would have to attempt to stick your arm in there. It would not be an accident, like, oh, I'm hugging you and my hand just ended up in this side. It's like elbow deep. So, I mean, I guess they could have been trying to steal my wallet, but it was weird. There's a lot of other small incidents that have taken place over the past week and a half. It feels like the weirdness and the influx of all these odd questions of where are you staying, how much influence do you have increased, especially the where are you staying ones. I mean, I've never had that many people ask me where I'm staying. And maybe it's coupled with all the chaos outside, with the people like threatening to hurt people with a pool ball and a sock outside. Maybe it has to do with the intensity of the case itself, and it's just all accumulated into this very stressful situation. But we have been just taking a bit more time to worry about our surroundings. Honestly, nothing really happened. It's just, you know, when you have a gut feeling like something's not right, it's kind of a lot of those that have been creeping us out, and we're just trying to stay on top of it before it escalates to anything. We could definitely just be paranoid, but I wanted to keep you guys updated on everything that's going on behind. But as of right now, nothing has really happened. Don't be worried. Nobody here is terrified. It's just been weird and and we're trying to be alert. We've been moving around to different places where we stay a bit more, been more mindful to just not come straight back to where we stay after court. Just taking all these like necessary small steps, and it just takes time. Because it's not just me, it's my researchers, it's my whole team. We're all just trying to make sure everybody feels safe and comfortable. And that's what we've been dealing with more in the past week, but I think that we should be able to get episodes up more quickly. I think we have a really good plan in place for all of us to feel safe, and hopefully it works. So with that being said, let's get into the actual episode. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support Achievement Centers for Children. They're a nonprofit organization helping children and adults with disabilities to achieve their greatest potential. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team and also our constant moving around in the city, bringing the team to the city. And we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. Few disclaimers: there are mentions of physical assault, kidnapping, firearms. Many of the quotes and statements included have been shortened and condensed for brevity. And you guys know the drill. Sean Combs is presumed innocent until proven guilty. That burden of proof is the responsibility of the government. Any descriptions or observations regarding Mr. Combs' legal team, anybody inside that courtroom, are personally noted by myself or my other researchers who are present in the courtroom. They should not be used as like a definitive source on how you should feel about anybody. So with that being said, let's get started. In other news, I think Diddy might know us. I don't know, maybe. So I'm just gonna explain. The first time it happened, I didn't even say it in an episode because my researcher and I are like, it was weird, but like, we could be dramatic. The second time it happens, I'm like, wait, maybe I'm not being dramatic. Not that it means anything regardless, but here's what happened and you tell me, because what is going on? Usually, Sean Combs will do this thing where he does a sweep of the press pews when he first walks into the courtroom. He's like hugging his attorneys. He'll look to the public side, which is on his right, and then we're kind of diagonal from him. And he oftentimes, since more of his supporters are coming to the courtroom these days, he'll shoot them little hand hearts. He'll put his hand to his chest. He'll mouth thank you. And then the press pews, we get a simple glance over and sometimes a nod, like a quick head down nod. Now, clearly, this stands out to both my researcher and I really strongly because on Thursday, we even write the time down, at 8:50 a.m., jurors are not in the courtroom. Attorneys are doing their thing. They're going through their documents. They're conversing about certain aspects of the day. Sean Combs sits down at his chair, and he turns in his chair to the right. This is our eye direction, like we can see him now. He makes eye contact with the press pews. We're at the very first row of the press pews, so there's 2 rows behind us. Now he glances over the press pews. He starts staring in what felt like in our general direction, or perhaps right behind us, and it's a pretty lengthy stare. And then he starts nodding while mouthing the words dramatically, "I know you."
You don't hear it, you only see the mouthing, right?
Yeah, and it was clear that he was doing it so whoever is receiving it can understand what he's saying. Because it's not like mumbling, he's like, "I know you." Like very clear. He mouths it twice with what we perceive to be a smirk. Then as he's turning back around to face the front, he's like ever so slightly shaking his head while he's still smirking.
And at that point, the feeling was he was saying that towards you. Right?
Yeah, so my researcher wrote, like, it looked like he was looking at Stephanie. I wrote, like, listen, you know when you can, like, make eye contact with someone, it feels like they're looking at you? Because you know when you're talking to someone and they're looking behind you, you start, like, looking behind you without even thinking about it subconsciously because you're like, wait, what's going on? Why are you looking behind me? It felt like he was looking at me, but again, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I don't know if he was looking at me. He could have been looking behind me, right? But then right at that moment, the jury comes in, we all stand up, and as there's noise in the courtroom, because we're not allowed to talk when the judge is on the bench, a reporter from a major media network, I mean, she's been doing this for years and years. She's like a professional. She turns to me and she whispers, quote, "You're putting that in your video, right? Because that was at least 7 seconds." And 7 seconds does feel like an eternity
it's
in
not
that
only
courtroom.
just looking, but like the mouthing of "I know you"
Yeah.
is weird.
And it was a pretty long time. Like usually when he, you know how in the beginning I'm like, this guy loves to stare. he kind of dropped a lot of the staring, at least towards the press. But when he did stare, it was still a little more brief. It feels like eternity, but it's more brief. This one was quite lengthy. So my researcher and I, we both felt it was weird. We both wrote it down independently in our notes in the courtroom. We talked about it after, and we're like, you know what? We can't be sure. We don't want to be dramatic. Then it happens again on Friday, a week later. So not the following Friday, but a week later. And this one felt more like, okay, are we crazy? It feels a little more real. I don't know. I could be wrong still, but so Friday, we're sitting in the same exact seats, first row of the press pews. However, there is a row of counsel in front of us. Now, a lot of the witnesses, they'll have their attorneys, family, and friends. Like, that's why we were sitting behind Cassie's attorney and Cassie's husband. They'll sit right in the pew in front of us. Mia, she was testifying. Her friends and family and her attorneys are in the pew right in front of us, and it's packed. It's jam-packed. And the whole day on Friday, all the press members are complaining about how they can't see anything. And we're in the first row of the press. And it was difficult for me to see sitting like this. Like, I couldn't see the witness and the defendant. Like, I could see the witness, I could see Mia, but I can't see the defendant that well. So my entire neck was crooked the entire time. So my researcher is focusing on the witness and her body language, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on the defendant then, because I gotta turn my neck. We can't just keep moving our heads because we don't want to bother the press behind us. So my head is poked out like this. I had to put pus on my neck. I'm trying to describe how much my neck was turned. So on Friday, there's this moment where there's a sidebar. Sean Combs' attorneys are near the front of the courtroom with the judge, and regardless, the jurors are still sitting on the side. Sean Combs turns around, but he turns to his right. So his mom is right behind him. It might have been easier for him to turn left. Maybe not, because maybe he's right-handed, but he does like a full turn. So he turns right, he glances over at our side of the courtroom, not like our side, but where we're sitting. And then he talks to his mom, and then he's smiling, nodding at her. He's like mouthing, "I love you." And then my neck is tilted still because I'm observing him and I'm taking notes about him talking to his mom during this sidebar. And as he's making his turn back to the front, it felt like we make awkward eye contact. And I say awkward to the point where I'm like, you know when it's so awkward, you almost like instinctively smile or look down because you're like, oh, I just got caught staring at someone. That was the feeling. It was like, oh, I literally just got caught staring him down. And he starts rubbing his chin with his left hand and mouths what appears to seem like, "I know you, I know you." And this time it seemed more pronounced because as he's rubbing his chin with his left hand, he does like a slight index point. It's not like a point. He's not pointing his finger, but it's kind of like a hand gesture, like, "I know you," like kind of like you, like almost pointing at you, whoever you is. Then he turns to the front. And it was just so odd. And regardless, to us, not to us, it was intense. It was odd. Maybe he's talking about the whole press as a whole? I don't know. Weird.
So to clarify, right? So Stephanie clearly feels like it was really uncomfortable eye contact, along with mouthing, "I know you." And even the phrase itself, "I know you," sounds really off. Like, what does that mean? You know me?
Yeah, okay, so even the first time that he did it, the previous Thursday, right? Like, my researcher was a bit more firm than me, and she's like, no, he was literally looking, and I saw it, like, I'm watching from the side.
And also, just to clarify,
Yes.
I think it is normal for them to know a lot of the press.
Oh,
because
yeah, I
they're
think-
doing research every day, seeing what everyone's talking about.
I
And I
think-
think it's completely normal, and we're expected of that. But the fact that he's mouthing that feels a little bit more intentional. Like, what does that mean, right?
Yeah, I think if they don't know every single person in the press pew, the attorneys are not doing their jobs right, especially if he's paying that much money. I think that they should probably know every single person in that courtroom, maybe not the public, but everybody else. Yeah, I mean, you're having a lot of the same familiar faces over and over again, and these are the people that are going outside and telling the world what is happening that's maybe not on the transcript. And so it makes sense that he would know every single member of the press, right? But it was just like, I think the intensity of the stare was a lot. It just is an intense moment. And I think the first time it happened, my researcher was a bit more firm in the sense of like, no, he was saying, "I know you." Because I thought, well, maybe he was saying, "How are you?" to somebody. Who knows, right? But then the second time he does like the finger point, so it was just weird. And again, he knows us, he doesn't know us. Does it really matter? I don't think so. but I did almost pee myself. Like, that's all I'm trying to say. Now, with that being said, Sean Combs walks into the courtroom, black sweater. This is a different day. And the attorneys, it's so interesting. I feel like as the trial progresses, he can't even hide it. His real mannerisms are starting to show because every single thing just reminds me of a commanding businessman. And I'm just gonna give you like a scale of his businessman poses. Anytime he sits and he listens to a witness testimony, he will have a default businessman pose that he sits in, and sometimes it's a lot more pronounced than others. But right when he walks into the courtroom, he looks like the president of the board meeting. All the attorneys are standing, waiting to hug him, waiting to greet him. Meanwhile, the prosecution, they look like they're not here to play games. Combs sits down on his chair. On either side, he's got Nicole Westmoreland standing behind him on his right side. On his left side, he's got Brian Steele. And they're both standing behind him with one hand on the back of Diddy's chair, and they're crouched over and talking to him. They're both whispering to both sides of his face. And it's like two consultants going over a business deal with the CEO, and Sean Combs is just staring straight ahead. Meanwhile, Tenny Garagos and Mark Agnifilo walk in. Combs stands up. He pulls out Tenny's chair for her, even helps her scoot in, which apparently she's 4 months pregnant with her second child. Mark Agnifilo, also very busy. He is the type of student that I feel, even before a test, everybody else in the classroom is like, you know what? If I fail, I fail. He's the one that still knows in his textbook until the very last moment. He's not talking to anybody, he's just studying his notes. And to give you an idea, Judge Arun, the judge, very firm, but he's also kind of sick of everyone right now. For example, in a sidebar, both sides are only allowed to have 2 lawyers from each side at the sidebar. But the defense team, because they have practically a whole football team of lawyers, they always consistently have more than 2 lawyers that go to the sidebar. And maybe Mark Agnifilo can see that the judge is getting annoyed because he mentions to him, I know you have a 2-lawyer rule at the sidebar, and I know we've been breaking it, so I'm guilty. And the judge just says, well, it's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You get a few lifelines, but you're running out. And it's gonna be a very intense day. The next witness on the stand is Capricorn Clark. Everybody has been anticipating her testimony, considering she's the one that has claimed she was kidnapped by Sean Combs. I mean, that's a lot to unpack. Capricorn Clark, she walks in looking so casual. Like a lot of the other witnesses, they've come in very well dressed, very well refreshed. They don't look happy, but they look like they're ready for a fight. They look like they're ready for battle. They look like they're ready for testimony. They look like they're prepared. Capricorn Clark walks in and she looks like, this doesn't even look like Monday at her work. This feels like a Wednesday after a crazy Taco Tuesday. Like, that's the vibe. Her hair is tied back. She has on these giant eyeglasses that cover half of her face. She doesn't look like she has much makeup on. She's wearing a white shirt, super thin, and a pinstripe skirt. What's interesting is if you actually look at photos of her leaving the courthouse, she's not wearing that same outfit. She's actually wearing a pinstripe vest and nothing underneath. So it's like a tank vest, and you can see her belly button. It's cropped. You can see the tattoos on her arm, and it's a perfect match with her skirt. I don't think the prosecutors liked that. So someone gave her a long sleeve white t-shirt.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know
When she
who's-
walked in, someone made her change.
It seems like it. I don't know if it was the prosecutors or her own counsel, or maybe it was one of her friends. I don't know. But someone was like, maybe you should wear this.
So someone changed her out of the vest?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you could see tattoos, you could see a lot of shoulder, which, I mean, it's court, right? I guess no shoulders. And you could see her belly button. So I don't know whose shirt it is. She walks in, and you can just... I think the minute she walks in, you can kind of tell that she's already going to have a very interesting testimony, because she just looks like she is not very prepared for the testimony. And it seems like everybody else is very prepared for the testimony. They've talked it over with counsel. Like, this is something that they knew and they were anticipating was going to happen. Capricorn Clark looks like she's already crying on the way to the witness stand. Like, she looks very relatable in the sense of, like, because same, I would also be a wreck. That's what it feels like. Now, Combs is doing the same thing where everyone in the pews, they're turning with Capricorn Clark as she's walking like she's a bride down the aisle. We're all like watching and turning our bodies facing the front with her. Sean Combs does not look back until she's in his view, and then he'll just watch her go to the witness stand. And with that, she takes the stand. There's a reason why the sun is hot and the sky is blue. Just like there is a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. For more than 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people, fighting for regular, everyday people across the country with over 100 offices and more than 1,000 lawyers nationwide, having recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 clients. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. In Florida, a client received $12 million after the insurance company offered $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million, 40 times the insurance company's offer of $650,000. The truth is, if you pick the wrong law firm, you might be setting yourself up to lose before you even get started. All law firms are not the same. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/rotten or dial pound law, pound 529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/rotten or pound law, pound 529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement. Now, we did a quick sweep of some old gossip blogs just to get an idea of how this was going to go. Capricorn Clark, if you knew about the music industry well, if you knew some of like the more figures in the music industry, so not just, oh, this celebrity, this artist, this musician, but their managers, their assistants, their staff, their personnel, you would probably know Capricorn Clark. She was Combs' assistant and manager of his clothing brand, but she's also friends with celebrities like Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. She seems a bit like a socialite in her own right. That's how people talk about her in these gossip blogs. But out of nowhere, someone that has always been with Sean Combs, she suddenly gets fired. And so all these gossip blogs, like 10 years ago, they start speculating, why did she get fired? Why did she get fired? There's rumors that she was fired for stealing from Diddy. He shut those rumors down. There were rumors that she was having intimate relations with Diddy, and then Cassie found out. Those are later shot down. It's just so much is happening. With one post from 2014 on a gossip website reading, "Old tea, but I heard Diddy brought Cassie into the bedroom with Capricorn." One gossip blog enthusiast writes, in 2015, she and Cassie developed a very close bond like sisters, and Capricorn started noticing that Diddy was rejecting Cassie's music to keep her under his thumb. This is in 2015. So Cap would tell Cassie that she could do better, and Diddy didn't like that, so he would start telling Cass that Cap was the one leaking bad stories about her, and that whenever Cass wasn't around, Cap would belittle her, and eventually Capricorn quit. So that's what they're hypothesizing is why Capricorn is no longer in Diddy's circle. But now, Capricorn's Instagram is private. Her bio just reads, "Nothing to see here. Everything not saved will be lost. Tell the truth, shame the devil." With a lot of people thinking that Sean Combs is the devil. Because even around the time of Cassie's lawsuit, there was a tweet that has since been removed and her ex has gone private. But Capricorn Clark allegedly tweeted, "Don't take the path of the wicked. Don't follow those who do evil. Stay away from that path. Don't even go near it. Turn around and go the other way." Another one, she adds, "Doors be unlocked. You gotta be willing to walk away from the money. Full stop. 2011 was hell. Tragic kingdom." She also does another one that's more clearly aligned with Sean Combs. "Black women end up being the sacrifice. For the last 11 years of my life, I had to deal with everyone's nonsensical allegiance to the devil. They will skin you and wear you, baby girl, and then pretend that they never wanted your skin." Kim was the only person who didn't switch up. The only one. "Dark times. I'm personally very triggered. I pray it's over. I never deserved this. Stop. Hashtag protect black women IRL. Hashtag RIP Kim." And it's a picture of her and Kim Porter.
Wow.
So clearly, she has very strong feelings. And she starts off the direct by giving some background. She says that she's always been in the music industry. She interned at Def Jam Records, which is a massive music label. Then she was with Death Row Records with Suge Knight, which is Bad Boy Records' constant nemesis. This is the origins of the Tupac and Biggie rivalry. She also mentions that, quote, "My mother died, and then shortly thereafter, my father died." And this is like 2